I am super excited. In this live stream, I've got a special guest. I have Rusty with Rusty's Guitar YouTube channel. And I'm going to show a little bit of his channel here. He has over 100,000 subscribers and his channel is literally blowing up. We're going to be pulling back the curtain and sharing some of our soloing secrets, as well as other tips that will help you take your guitar playing to the next level. So I want to encourage you to be sure and ask questions, leave comments, and get into the conversation with us. So let's go ahead and bring him on. Here we go. Hey, Rusty, how's it going?
All right. Glad you
We're
had
glad to
me
have
on.
you, man.
Thanks. All right. So what's going on tonight?
Oh, man, we're just going to have some fun.
Yeah, right.
I've been looking forward to this. It's going to be really cool.
I got my coffee. One more
Yeah.
drink.
Yeah, I got some water down here. I'll have to kind of move the mic to get to it, but then I've got me some tea over here as well. So
Yeah.
I think we're good, man. Excited. So what got you into getting starting your YouTube channel? What kind of inspired you to do that?
Honestly, it was a fluke thing. My son had a cooking channel, like a flat griddle kind of cooking channel on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
And he started getting a few thousand subscribers and making a little money. And he kept saying it for months that I should do that. And just one day I just got a notion and got a few, tools, audio interface and just a few things and just started it pretty raw.
Yeah.
For the first few months or years. Yeah. It's, there, as you know, it's a learning curve on YouTube. That's for darn sure.
Oh man, it's been a heck of a learning curve for me.
Yeah. I mean, the whole video and editing is another. I mean, playing is, we can play a little bit, but that's a whole nother world for me.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I've learned so much and I've had my channel, I think about the same length of time you've had yours. And
Yeah.
I mean, I started out I didn't really have a good computer, didn't really have anything. All I had was just my iPad and I'm still using my iPhone. Of course, I've got a newer iPhone now, which is cool. But man, I didn't know anything about iMovie or any editing software. I just kind of jumped in there. And,
Yep.
you know, what got me going, honestly, sad to say, was COVID.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Right when COVID happened, it's like, I had a band right before that and I had a classic rock band for a few years. And, I was kind of getting with my, band members and saying, hey, we're going to get this thing back together. And eventually everybody just said, no, we're not going to do it. So I just started messing around and I did a couple of fun videos just goofing around. And then I did a couple of improvising videos where I'm just playing guitar to improvise, to tracks, backing tracks. And I kind of stuck with that for a while, but I kind of realized that wasn't going to get me anywhere as far as, I needed to be teaching something and bringing some value to people and things like that. So.
Yep. Yeah. No doubt about it. We want to have fun, but they have to gain something from it.
Absolutely.
From the channel.
And I think really from the get-go, from what I've seen of your channel since I've been following you, it looks like you've right out of the gate kind of just was on kind of the same path. And I don't think you really had to work too hard to find exactly where your niche was. Is that fair to say? Or did you?
Yeah. I mean, I started doing a little more bluesy stuff at first because I was trying to just get better at playing blues. And so that was a lot of the beginning of the channel, but my roots are definitely rock, back in the middle to late 70s when I started playing was Jimmy Page and Jimmy Page, Billy Gibbons, Clapton, the raw guitar sound that I still love. That's what really got me to play for sure.
I'm right there with you. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely always loved the blues. I never really focused a whole lot on, whether I was going to teach more of bluesy stuff or more of, just licks on the guitar. Really, one of the things I really didn't want to do going into it, and I still don't really do a whole lot of it now, and that is just trying to play, lick for lick solos, of some of the great songs and stuff like that. Did you ever struggle with whether you wanted to do that or not?
Yeah, I mean, I did some of that, but I really saw that there was hundreds and hundreds of any of the popular solos and riffs that we know. There's
Right.
hundreds, maybe even thousands of videos on that stuff. So I kind of twisted it into learning something from that solo in the way like Angus Young would play a pentatonic solo mix in major and minor, that kind of stuff. So
Right. Right.
that's the usually took it in that kind of route, trying to break down maybe his thought process, but the best I can because I never talked to him.
Right. Right. Exactly.
But you could just see it. I mean, especially Angus Young, just really sticks mostly to the minor pentatonic, just throws those major notes in there all the time,
Yeah.
but in a simple, tasteful way, just that we love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember playing a lot of AC/DC stuff, and of course, before I got my YouTube channel, I mean, I may have been technical in some aspect, but I've really been more of a play by ear player, for the most part, all through the
Yeah, me
years.
too.
And as far as solos go, I've said this on a lot of my videos, but for me personally, I really just believe the goal is just to hit those signature licks. Hit those licks that people are going to remember, that are going to be memorable to people. I mean, sometimes a solo, like maybe an Angus Young, Back in Black or something like that. So, I mean, you can almost get it exactly, but a lot of other
Yeah.
solos, you can just get some of the basic, best parts of it, and then just kind of improvise and do your own
Absolutely.
thing.
I mean, I know a lot of players are hung up on getting this note for note stuff, but you're not gaining anything from that because if you watch Jimmy Page or any of these guys, they do not play it the same way.
That's exactly right.
Live, and sometimes very much different. They still use kind of the same thought process, but when they're on stage, they're usually improvising something, and it's fun to
Absolutely.
watch. Though I love it.
Oh yeah, it is great. And with YouTube and all the social media and everything these days, it's like you can watch. Like for instance, I have done some recent stuff. I did Neil Sean, one of his solos.
Yeah.
Done Prince. I've been playing Purple Rain since forever, as long as I can remember. Just in different bands and stuff like that. And I always try to really get close to the solo, but I really worked hard on it when I had my own band, my classic rock band, right before COVID. And just recently I did a video on that, and I kind of had to go back and just kind of remember it. But it's kind of like, and really when I first got my YouTube channel going, one of the first things I did was make the mistake of doing the Hotel California solo. And
Did you get a red flag?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's like, I'm thinking, oh man, I better not ever do that again. And so that kind of freaked me out. And, but the way I look at it really is simple. And it is just like, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So to me, if I'm not out there in, playing in a band or playing these songs, once a week or, at least a few times a month or something, then I'm not going to remember all that stuff.
Oh, I know it. It does go away. You remember pieces of it, but to flow right through it, you will lose it.
Exactly. Just off the top of your head, it'd be hard just to jump in there and without, doing a little bit of practicing before and kind of preparing yourself and stuff like that. So
that's for sure.
No doubt about it. Yeah, for sure. So back when you were just kind of starting out as far as playing guitar, do you remember much about kind of what you learned first? Was it more like kind of rhythm stuff for a while, or did you kind of right away get into learning some scales and things like that?
I was really fortunate. I started playing when I think it was I was 14. But my uncle was a great guitar player, and his band had been practicing in our basement, at our house. So I firsthand, before I even started playing, I saw he was an amazing player with dynamics and just control over the guitar. So I learned a lot before I even started playing. But
Very cool.
he helped me get a guitar and just showed me a few bar chords. And he said, if you learn these, come back next week. And so I was really all excited. And so within a month, I'm playing the pentatonic scale and bar chords within a month. I was just that excited about it.
Very
Obviously,
cool.
it plateaued a little bit from there
Yeah.
because there's a lot to it, getting it sound musical.
Exactly.
But it was just that simple, and I was drawn to the hard rock bands, even stuff like Kiss and Led Zeppelin and the stuff that was popular when I was in high school.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Fun
for
stuff,
me,
yeah.
yeah, for me, I just remember whatever records I had. I mean, that's when I started playing. It's like, I
Right, yeah.
had Beach Boys, and I had Kiss records, and I had, or Kiss. I had a few Kiss records, I guess. But I had all the classic rock stuff like Journey and maybe Boston, Foreigner. I forget now. Aerosmith, probably.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Stuff like that. And I really just started learning. Out of one question I was going to ask you is, do you remember? I like to compare the way things are today, because it's kind of like my last video I just did, my live stream I just did a few days ago. I titled it, if you're over 40, you need to learn must know the major scale or something like that. But the whole over 40 thing to me really is, if you're younger, then you grew up in an age to where all this stuff was ready and available to you. Anybody could just jump in there, and, the internet and of course, YouTube's unbelievable and all that.
Yep.
But back in our day, for me, there wasn't none of that stuff, man. You had to work hard to find a place. I mean, you couldn't just go out and find somewhere where you could go watch Neil Schon play a solo, for instance.
Right.
You'd have to go to the concert and try to get you a good front row seat, to be able to see something like that.
Yeah, now you can see him or anybody copy him.
Yeah.
No, right in your face, so it is a different world in learning, for sure.
Yeah, what I would do is I just went and seen local bands. So I always had, I had a neighbor, good friend of mine, and I was friends with. There was three brothers, and the younger ones I was more friends with. But the older one, he was a drummer, and he was in a 50s, 60s, 50s, 60s kind of cover band. And I love that kind of music. Of course, I love Beach Boys and all that, but all the, stuff that you would hear like on Animal House, or, some of these old 50s, movies, like Animal House, American Graffiti, something like that.
Yep.
I'm kind of dating myself here, but, all that stuff right there is kind of, and I would go watch them practice, kind of like you were talking about. And they were just right down the road, and they would practice at my, my neighbor's house there. And I'd go watch them, and I'd sit there and just study that guitar player, man, everything he did. And that's one of the ways, right off the top, I learned to do stuff, just like the, stuff like that. And
such a great way to learn is that visual. I mean, just, YouTube is great for that, but there's nothing better than just the live experience of a player.
Absolutely. And that's what I really love is just going and watching somebody. And of course, every time I go for years, I mean, if I go watch a live band, it's like I'm just glued to watching the guitar play. It doesn't matter who they are or what kind of music, it makes no difference.
I mean, I do play at church also. So even when I go visit another church, I can't help but
me too.
be drawn to, what a guitar player is doing. And
me too.
There's so many different, things with a guitar, especially now with all this, the ampless stuff that's out and all the effects are just in our face.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I still like the raw guitar sound more than anything though. Just a little reverb and turn the amp up, and that's still my favorite.
Yeah. I'm still a Marshall guy all the way. I don't have a big one now. I've got, you can kind of see it a little bit there.
Yeah. In the background. Yeah.
It's just a little small 5 watts, what I got now, but there for the longest time I always had to have some kind of Marshall stack or something.
You don't see anybody with that anymore, really.
You don't. Man, all the days are gone. It's all for show. If they do have it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's fun stuff. But yeah, I do remember, just playing just whatever records I had, literally just whatever music I had. And I know back in those days, there really wasn't any place to get information unless you went and watched somebody play live or local, guitar player or band playing live. And, of course you did have like the Guitar World magazine, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where you could maybe find some good interviews where they had some tablature or something, or whatever. But
right.
It's just, when I think about that, it just blows my mind as to where we're at today versus then, so.
Yep. So many options now.
It's unbelievable.
So
man.
what kind of channels do you like to watch, to learn from guitar channels?
As far as like these days on YouTube?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, man, you're number one.
I appreciate that.
Honestly, I mean, there's times whenever I watched you when I first started following you, I said, well, I can do most all that. And it's almost like I wanted to just copy you on videos. It's like, well, man, that's a great idea. I just need to do that. It's like, and I didn't want to just like copy you like every video, but at the same time, I got to watching more and more. But I'll tell you this, the honest truth is, when I first started my guitar channel, man, I just couldn't find nobody out there that was doing guitar that I really related with, that I really felt like, man, that's what I want to do. That's the kind of teaching I want to teach. That's the kind of, music I want to, I want to play, and all these kinds of things. And it took me a while. I mean, I found some people. Obviously, there's the big channels like Rick Beato, and you got Rhett Shull, and you've got Ross Campbell, and there's a lot of really big killer channels.
Right, with great players too. A lot of them. I really like Jack Roosh.
Jack Roosh.
Yeah, man, he's just so tasteful. It's and never flashy, but always
that right?
Tasteful. Yeah, I don't know if you haven't seen any of his stuff. He's just a great rock blues player, just really good.
I don't think I have, but I'll tell you, somebody comes to mind right now, and that's Guthrie. Is it Trap?
Oh yeah. Real good.
And I've watched some of his live stuff, and it's unbelievable. I mean, he is just. But I think, and we're doing live stream, so we're doing live. So we start playing, if I'll make a few mistakes or whatever, but he's really just doing real videos, but he's not, he's not editing them.
Nope,
it's just like a live stream, what he's doing. And
he doesn't mess up too much either.
He doesn't, man. He can do like the first 3 minutes worth of solo, and it's like, he really doesn't mess up hardly at all. I mean, he's got it down. He's solid. So
yeah,
I watched a lot of him.
A lot. Yep. No doubt about it. Yeah.
Some of the stuff I do like watching him. Well, getting to some solo secrets, just kind of thinking about, not necessarily from the stuff we're doing these days, but think about, back in the day, if you wanted to learn a guitar solo, whether it be note for note or just trying to figure out something you couldn't quite hear, at regular speed. Do you remember what it was that we did to be able to slow it down where you could kind of hear those notes?
I really didn't do much of trying to slow anything down, more just literally picking the needle up off the record and trying to get that little bit of, really just trying to hear those little things that those players were doing. And you could, I played the pentatonic enough where I could hear it as he was playing. Yep. Just having those simple phrases and there's still people love that stuff because it's from the heart. It's just just a phrase that comes right out.
Yeah, it really is. One of the first videos I saw of yours, I think you did one of the Angus Young solos. I can't remember what it was. It might have been a short.
I don't even know. Yeah, I really liked. Yeah. Just a great example of mixing major and minor. But he's more in the minor the whole time, except for those little. Love it.
Yeah, that's stuff for sure.
And even I know I broke that down a little bit, just showing some players that that mixing that scale doesn't have to be. You don't play both scales note for note. You're just playing little pieces of those scales.
Exactly right.
Yeah, honestly, that stuff. I really didn't hear that stuff early on, the little nuances of the walk downs, major, minor. but as the years went on, it took me a long time, but I'm really drawn to that kind of sound, that raw mixing of the major and minor is just a big part of my playing now.
Yeah, for sure. But it's like, you're doing it now, to where years ago you probably did it. It's just you didn't really think about it. You didn't
Not
really,
at all.
you didn't have,
There was no
you didn't-
plan
you didn't-
whatsoever.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, it's like the technical thing wasn't in the back there saying, okay, well, I know exactly what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I need to walk down to the major third here and slide up to the flat
Right.
seven, and never.
Well,
And honestly, I still don't do that. I know where some of that stuff is, but in the middle of a solo, it's more the ear. I know when I go up here what it's going to sound like before I even play it.
right.
And the great players, I know it's already happening in their mind before they do it. They know what it's going to sound like, and they're confident, and they hit it.
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
I try to strive for that. I'm nowhere near as good as some of the players that we talked about, but I just like to mix those styles together for sure.
I love it. Yeah. And, one of the things, one of my big, secrets, if you will, is just, I've been playing guitar, and again, I learned all the, I learned all the open chords, and I learned the bar chords, and I learned, the pentatonic scale and just the basic stuff like that. And what I did basically was, I would just kind of, play everything by ear, but over time I started to learn, some basic, some of the solos and some of the ways of improvising and things like that. But it's like I never really focused too much on what I was playing, whether it was I knew some of it was pentatonic, but I didn't really know all the details as far as major scales and pentatonic scales and all that kind of stuff. I just kind of played by ear and did my own thing. But what I did was I would literally set in class, or just on my own time. And I'm just going to show one thing here real quick. And one thing I did was I would take and draw out a guitar neck on paper, and I literally would draw it out. And then I knew the notes on the fretboard. So all I knew was, okay, well, if this is the A pentatonic minor scale, then all I got to do is draw that out, all over the fretboard. So I would basically end up with my little drawing that, well, I'm actually on scales right now, or I was on chords, sorry. But here's scales. So I would end up with something that looked like this right here. Your minor, pentatonic, minor. Here we go. So I would draw this all out on paper.
Yep.
And start studying it and thinking, okay, well, how do I get from, this open A and then play something really cool going all the way up until I get to, say, the A on the, your top E string there, it's 17th fret, so it's kind of like, and I just started developing, start putting my own patterns together.
That's a huge learning tool, just visualizing that.
It really,
the notes on the fretboard.
It really was. And that's the thing I did, is I just kind of made up my own patterns, and I didn't really understand any of the theory behind it. I didn't have no idea about, the different positions and all that kind of stuff. But, these days, you can just go in there and, it's like this website, for instance. I love this website, but you can just go right through there, and you can just kind of pick, certain patterns that you want to learn and kind of play in. And that's the thing I love to do. And that's one of the big things that I have as far as, teaching on a lot of my videos and stuff, like there's your, that's one shape right there and stuff. So there's so many things you can do, but it all kind of starts with visualizing,
absolutely,
every bit of that, that scale. And I did that with the pentatonic scales and, like minor pentatonic and stuff like that. But I never really thought a whole lot about major pentatonic versus minor pentatonic. I just knew what it sounded like, and I think everybody kind of starts out with that minor pentatonic scale, but I didn't really know, the things like just, doing kind of, and adding that major third. Just little things like that. I might do it by listening to it and hearing it.
Yeah.
And I could hear that's what they were doing. And I could find the note, Yeah, that's where he's at. I can hear that.
Yep.
Yeah, I could hear little things like that, but I never really understood any of it. And it's not anything that I actually knew the technical stuff behind it. So what I did was, after I've been playing guitar probably for about 5 years, and this is a real quick story. After about 5 years, I went to a local music store, which was real close to my house. And I found a guitar teacher. He's a classical guitar teacher, super nice guy. And it just so happened, I just kind of, after the first lesson, I kind of showed him, okay, well, here's kind of what I know. Been playing for about 5 years. I can play all these songs. I can play AC/DC. I can play all this cool stuff, Kiss, whatever you want, But what I want to learn is how to take it to that next level. What I want to learn is how to get to that next. There's a lot of things I don't know that if I did know and understood, it would definitely help me along and get me to that next level that I want to go. And he taught me the modes, and which is based on the major scale. And so ever since then, as long as I can remember, I've applied that knowledge to anything that I do, whether it's major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, major scales, the modes, and really when it comes down to learning songs, when it comes down to trying to figure out solos, just about anything you do, you can find, something within those positions of, those modes, scales, or you don't have to call them modes. It's really just, you can look at it as like 5 positions of the major scale if you want to, because there's really kind of like 5 positions that I use. I know there's 7 modes, so I always
it's color. It's the color, the sound. So you're doing. Many players approach that differently, but the way you're talking is a very solid way. I'm a little bit behind because I look at the pentatonic scale first, and then the chord tones, which ends up to be modal playing in a sense, because but it's not. It changes the way you play, how you visualize the fretboard and your chords and your scales.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's actually all about, I know that you're really, you're the best, one of the best players I've seen as far as YouTube channels where you really nail down how to play, play the chord tones and play through the chords and all that kind of stuff. And I've done a couple of videos on that, but it's not something that, I've done that much of, although I do understand it. I understand the theory, but man, you're really good at doing that. And to me, a lot of that is just, you really are going from kind of a pentatonic to more of a 7-note scale from time to time. And
you're right. It's what I'm doing. I don't call it out like that, but that's because I'm still trying to get better at it myself. So I do, when I do a lesson like that, I'm learning, especially, mapping out the fretboard and doing these diagrams. And it's just, just the better you can look down and see this stuff as you're playing something, you're already thinking about your next move, the technique you're going to use and tone and all that stuff. It just comes with time and knowing your instrument.
Absolutely. And so many of the videos I've done where I've tried to teach, whatever it was, I just have to take time, and just sit there and play guitar and just really get to a point where I feel like, okay, now I'm comfortable in what I'm fixing to try to show somebody, so it takes time.
You want to be ready, especially there's all these great players out there. You don't want to do a video and not be prepared.
Boy, you ain't kidding, man. You can get slammed really quick.
Yeah.
I've had my share.
Yeah. I've actually done early on. I just would put the video out whether I was comfortable or not. But, lately there's been times I've gone through a video and like, that is not good. I'm not putting this out.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to do because you put some time in on it, but I don't know. I just, it's been a wild ride for me, and it's a lot of work, but I've learned a ton along the way, and just how little, the little fish we are in this big sea of great players. It's just
you ain't kidding.
It's pretty humbling, when
it's super humbling because I've always, not that I, thought that I was anything great by no means, but I always thought I could hold my own. I will say that's a bold enough statement, but man, when you're playing or when you're doing videos and it's compared to all the people on YouTube,
Right.
it would be like you're not trying to be the best band in, I think, wherever you live at in the area.
Right.
You know, you're not trying to just be the best band in your hometown. You're trying to figure out how to compete with the people in the world. You know, you got people, you know, in England and Ireland and everywhere else. You know, it's like you're competing with the whole world. You really are. You're not just competing with, you know, folks in your area or just the United States or whatever.
Right. And some of these players are the best in the world. I mean, they're
They are.
that good. And
They are.
I just try to learn from them, and you know, I do my own thing with the old guys.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I did a video. There's been a few videos that I did, and I was kind of playing with the idea of a thumbnail that said something about shredding or maybe a title. But I was real careful with that. I didn't want to do anything that said anything about shredding until I really was doing something that I felt like was worthy of that. You know what I mean? And I watched this one guy in one of my videos. I couldn't tell you which one it is now, but I put a little bit of his. It was more of kind of like a reaction video to what he did. I mean, he was just amazing.
Yeah.
And this guy, he literally went through, I can't remember what it was now, but he did like probably 20. No, he didn't. I think he did a video where he did like 100 solos in a row of just, you know, different players. Of course, I did like his top 20 or something, you know, or whatever. But it was mind blowing because, I mean, man, it was so good. And I'm thinking, and he was shredding. So I was basically I don't remember what the video was about, but it had something to do with, I don't think I'm, you know, I really don't think I'm worthy of being called a shredder.
That's right.
Let's
Yeah.
say that. You know, that's a nice
humbling.
way of putting it, you know, but
Definitely humbling.
not that I don't think I can play fast. It's just, you know, the shredding is a little bit different ball game, you know, so.
Yeah. And I've never been good at anything very fast at all. You know, it's something I'm not even, you know, the older I get, I just do my own thing here and have fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, how long have you been playing in church on the praise teams?
That's been about maybe 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, at a few different churches along the way.
Yeah.
Just got asked to play. I was going to church for a while, and they found out I played. So I played acoustic for a little bit, and
Yeah.
we started. You know, a drummer came into our church, and all of a sudden we got a small band. So, and then we started going to another church that had some established musicians already. So we're, you know, just it's really some of the top 40 Christian music that we do. Some of that in church is, you know, is just fun to play, just really energetic. And so I just been blessed with that. You know,
Yeah.
I still love to get together with some guys and jam. I don't do a lot of stuff out besides that. And,
Right.
you know, between the stuff I do at church and the YouTube channel, and this keeps me busy.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So when do you think was your last like band you were in, like classic rock or whatever?
It was, honestly, it's been since the 80s.
20,
I mean, that long ago.
a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I was a teenager into my early 20s, I was just a bad drunk, and I hate to say it, just did drugs. Everybody did back then, it seemed like, at least the
Right.
people I hung around with.
Yeah.
But, you know, I just went overboard and really, you know, really hit bottom I was 27 years old.
Yeah.
And, you know, I lost my job and wife and kids, house, all this stuff within a few month period.
Oh, man.
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm really fortunate and blessed. I have my beautiful wife, and this has been I haven't drank since then. It's been, I think God just pulled me out of that darkness, and I've, you know, but you know,
Yeah.
since that time, because I didn't play guitar there was like a 10-year period I didn't even play.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a pretty long stretch. I didn't have any desire to play because it really took me into some dark places, but I allowed that to happen, obviously. But
Right.
yeah, once I got clean and really started changing my life, the desire came back, and started playing in church, and you know, played with some other guys doing some things, and
Yeah.
just just I love playing more now than I ever have.
Absolutely.
I
Well,
pick it up every day. Yep.
yeah. Well, my wife, we're going on. Well, we're actually we're. Let me start over. We've been married 19 years. We're going on our 20th. That's what was trying to say. And so, it's really exciting because since I've been with her, we met in church, and it was really during that time where I was playing on the praise team and playing guitar, starting out. And of course I was, wanting to be a worship leader and kind of feeling that calling. And so I did quite a bit of that. I played on praise teams. I was worship leader for probably one church about 6 years, another church a year, maybe a couple other churches, maybe a year or so. So quite a bit. And really before I met her, I had kind of went through that point of, just going through a divorce and all that stuff. And to be honest, my ex-wife, it's like those were the years where, I tried to go into the whole bar band scene. So back before that, like in my 20s, I wasn't really into that. I would drink a lot and partied a lot and all that, but I really just went and watched bands, and I didn't really have a band that was like in the bars and stuff like that. And the difference there is I was always into recording. I always had a 4-track or an 8-track, and I was into songwriting, and recording and things like that. So a lot of the stuff I did was just original music and, based around, I would have like my brother would be the singer, and I'd have some friends, that would play in the bands, but we really didn't play out much. But then when I got into the whole bar band scene, I was, it wasn't good. It led me down a wrong path. Although I wasn't,
that's for sure.
By that time in my life, I really wasn't that big of a drinker, but still, it just, it just wasn't the right thing. But
just the late nights and the whole
scene,
all of it,
every bit of it. That's exactly right. But yeah, but like I say, the last 20 years, it's been, I had spent a lot of years where I did only just, in the praise band and just being a worship leader, and didn't do anything else, didn't have any other bands or anything like that. And then, like I said, I had the classic rock band. I had a Christian rock band, my own original band. And we actually did an album, released it in 2011.
Wow.
And, I could show it to you sometime, but I'd have to find it on the internet. But it's basically still available. It's just a matter of, it's got, I don't know, we had all the different platforms that we streamed it on, back then or whatever. But I kind of started out with that, and then we had a Christian rock band built off that. And of course, I was worship leader at a church for a while, and then just kind of went from there. But probably right before, maybe about 3.5 years, I guess, before COVID, I was in a Christian rock or a classic rock band, and it was called Coming Back Around. And I was really, and again, this is kind of in a time where I was kind of past all the drinking days and all the partying. It was just, I really just love classic rock, and during that time frame, I really didn't have big audiences, but we had some really good shows, but it just come down to, obviously, just really wasn't worth it. Just, it kind of fizzled out, you know what I mean? Especially even without COVID, it still would have fizzled out because it was just kind of.
So it's a lot of work to play out, practice, and
it is tough, and just hauling the equipment around, just itself, it's like, it's really interesting. So I guess, we're here talking about soloing secrets, and, but that's all part of it. It really is. I mean, if you want to be in a band and you want to get in a band and really do the deal, it's like, man, it's a lot of work, and you've got to be smart. You've got to be strategic. You've got to kind of know some of the secrets of, what to do and what not to do, especially rehearsing and getting along with other musicians.
That's something that's really a lot of players have never played with anybody.
Right.
Playing with backing tracks and stuff. So that's where I learned the most. And you probably say the same thing. When you interact with musicians, you're going to create your own sound to fit into that and the way you play. If you're playing with a 3-piece or you're playing with a keyboard player, you're gonna play differently. So there's so many factors that shape my playing for sure. Because I played in a 3-piece band for a long time.
Yeah.
And I loved like Robin Trower stuff.
I bet that was a blast.
Yeah. And we just played simplistic stuff. We had a great singer that really carried those kind of songs. So
Right.
just a blast playing that style. I still love to listen to that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the music, and I'm really just partial to just a guitar, a bass, and drums, and a lead singer. You know what I mean? That's because I've always tried to play. No, not that I don't like playing with other guitar players. That's great and all, but it's just fun to play a song. And again, this is kind of something that I've kind of worked through the years, but it's just really cool to play music and knowing you're the only guitar player, and you've got to, maybe a song does have a couple of guitar parts or whatever, but you kind of got to figure out which ones you want to play. You kind of got to do what you need to do to try to make the song work. And I've loved that. And that's really improvising. It's what it is. And so I think I've been improvising forever. You know, I maybe didn't know it back then, but
Well,
yeah.
three-piece thing is
Definitely.
the Robin Trower and Jimmy Page and
ZZ Top and all that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That just has a whole different vibe, and I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Did you ever get into any of the really cool players like, of course, Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai, and people
we did a few of those Van Halen tunes, but I never was able to. And really, he had his own vibe going on that I never caught on to.
Me too.
It's just a fast style with a lot of control over the instrument, and it's how he changed how people play. After him, he just so exciting. But I just never was able to play like that, so we kind of stayed away from those kind of tunes. I was more simplistic kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I was in some classic rock bands, and I remember, I learned Eruption, not that I had try to play it perfect or anything, but just, I kind of got through it, and it was pretty good. But, Eruption, You Really Got Me, songs like whatever the songs was that didn't have all the crazy tremolo bar, whammy bar stuff and all the
right. That's another whole
all that stuff
in itself.
I never worked on. And I guess one of the things I can say to any guitar player out there, I'll just share this. You could be playing guitar for 20 years, 30 years, it doesn't matter, 40 years. Unless you've really worked on those techniques, unless that's something you've really spent some time trying to figure out and you've made that, a goal of yours. Like say you could be playing guitar for 30 years and not have a clue on how to do all the finger tapping and all the Van Halen stuff and all the Paul Gilbert and Steve Vai and, all this wild kind of stuff, and it's really the same thing, even with the pentatonic. And I'll say this, one of the first times I ever heard Eric Johnson play guitar, and I'm thinking, man, he's amazing. He's doing all this crazy stuff, but then later on I learned he's just playing super fast pentatonic sequences. I mean, he's playing the melodic stuff too, but it's the same thing with Joe Bonamassa. I learned that. And
so
it's like
tight with the alternate picking and just
absolutely
so precise. Like the timing is, and it just sounds, it's amazing. I can play a slower version of some of that stuff, but
but again, I had
no idea.
I had no idea a lot of the fast stuff was just pentatonic stuff. I thought it was more just, all over the place,
Right. When you hear it at that speed, it's like from another world almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So so stuff like that. So my point would be is you could play for years, unless you've worked on that kind of stuff, unless that's been your focus. And like Eddie Van Halen, I mean, the thing I say about Eddie Van Halen,
you locked up. Are you still with me? I think you're
okay. I got you back.
You're back now. Yeah.
Okay. I think we're back now. Okay.
Good.
Whatever. We almost went down for the
You
count.
like froze for a second.
Yeah. We almost went down for the count there. But the thing about it is with like Eddie Van Halen, for instance, I can honestly say, and I did a video kind of about this, Eddie Van Halen, man, I am a super fan. I mean, I love him and his music, and Van Halen, man, I've been to Van Halen concerts and I love Van Halen, but I couldn't call Eddie Van Halen one of my influences because I've never really tried to do any of his stuff. I mean, he does all the, all the, this kind of stuff here. And just, he does some stuff on the guitar is just unbelievable. And I've never personally tried to work at any of that stuff. And I've got a buddy of mine, a guy that I know, and he is like a master. And I've watched him, and I mean, he's a great guitar player, but I can do a ton of stuff that he can do. But when it comes to Van Halen stuff, I can't even touch him. It's like, because he had to spend lots of years, and that's all he did. And he could play a ZZ Top song, and he's going to make it into an Eddie Van Halen style solo.
Because it's just his style now.
It's totally his style. Yeah. And no matter what he plays, he's going to come in with a wah, some kind of crazy something. And he does all those real, those, I forget what you call them now, but where you bend it all the way down and you come back up with a
dive
cool
bomb kind of thing,
all that kind of stuff. And
yeah,
but the deal is, I never worked on that kind of stuff. Number one, I didn't ever have a guitar with a good tremolo package.
Well, it's necessary for that, for sure. But
yeah,
I love to listen to that style, but I just never spent the time, and I don't know if I ever could. I mean, that's a whole nother thing.
Me too. Yeah, I had a Kramer Beretta, like a hot pink one. I think it had a Floyd Rose on it, and I could never keep that thing in tune, man. It's like, it's so hard with a Floyd Rose and trying to, I mean, if you've got something like that, you're used to it. It's probably no big deal, but I never could get used to all the, you got to do a little fine tuning all the time and stuff. And if you don't have
an art to that too. Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have everything set up right. And I've had the same guitar setup guy now for a long time, over 30 years or so. But if you don't set your guitar up correctly and you don't know how to maintain it, it's like, man, it's hard to do that stuff. So,
yep.
But anyway, that's kind of my spill on influences. When it comes down to your influences on guitar, it really is who influenced you and helped you develop a certain style that you have.
And I think it's great for anybody out there to, if you gravitate toward Billy Gibbons or Angus Young. I mean, those are some of my influences, and I don't copy everything they do, but I just grab pieces of stuff that I can just identify with it, just connect with, I guess I should say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, cool deal. So I got to ask you this question here, Rusty. Was there ever a time whenever you just kind of, for whatever reason, decided you wanted to start studying like music theory?
Never.
That's a good answer.
No, yeah, I never have. That's a shame on me to call myself a teacher and don't.
No, not at all.
I know, I obviously know basic theory, but I just never studied in any way. It's very, you can progress as a player much quicker. But there's still so many things, so many great players did not study theory, and they're some of the best that ever played the instrument. But it's just a different, depends on what your goals are.
There's no doubt.
I mean, if you want to be a great musician in a band, you should know how to read charts and stuff. I mean, it's gonna help you huge.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I just never went down that road. But like we talked about earlier, visualizing chords in multiple areas of the fretboard, and connecting, the scale in those areas, it's just that, and rhythmic phrases and stuff that connect all this stuff together. I mean, that's the key for me, is just.
Well, let me ask you this: when you play like you play like an A major bar chord, just E position, yeah. So I know that you can visualize the arpeggios. You can kind of just see the arpeggios from being kind of in that position. You can definitely see the target notes. You can just kind of visualize the target note.
Yeah, I guess. I still gravitate toward the minor pentatonic a real lot, but there's obviously times that's not the right choice. And the major pentatonic is still right at your fingertips in that
Absolutely.
position.
Absolutely.
But just if you can visualize the A chord
Uh-huh.
in those multiple areas and know the major and minor in each of those areas.
Exactly. Very nice.
Just
Very nice.
yeah, just looking at those little chord shapes,
It is. And
just-
when I first started my YouTube channel, I had never heard of the cage system. And I remember watching videos and they talked about the cage system. And I thought, well, okay, well, that's great. Well, I could see what they're doing. And I played, different positions for chords, for a long time. So I just never had a name for it. So it's not that I had an attitude about it. It's just that I thought, well, I kind of already know pretty much what that's all about. But when I started studying it and really started trying to understand it, then I started getting into it more and I started realizing that a lot of the stuff that I already know, is tied into those cage positions. It's just, I didn't know it was, and part of that really is those, the major and minor pentatonic scales. Yep. There's even for every cage position, of course, my big deal is, I come from a major scale. That's really where I camp out first. You know what I mean? I definitely love the minor pentatonics and all that minor scales, but I kind of start as a foundation using that major scale. And for me, and I can almost see, like, if the A major is my, major, the key I'm in, and that's the major scale I'm working with, I can see that major pentatonic scale really easily. And then if I go down to the F sharp, which would be your minor pentatonic, which would be your relative minor, I can almost see that more as the six, rather than just see the F sharp minor as my one. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And did you ever think of the pentatonic positions where, in other words, you could look at it as your major pentatonic, is going to be your one, and then you kind of go from there, or your minor pentatonic is your one, and then you go from there? Or did you only look at it from like just the pentatonic, the minor one being?
Well, for many years, it was pretty much just the minor pentatonic, and I would sneak in little major stuff because that's the kind of music I was, trying to play, the rock stuff.
Right.
But now it's depending on, if I hear a progression, I might just instantly go to more of a major pentatonic and fill in the notes accordingly,
right,
with chord shapes. And if I can sneak a bluesy lick in there, I'm going to do that too. But
me too. Yeah.
But it's a lot. I use the major pentatonic a lot more than I ever have before.
Okay.
But in a blues where there's seventh chords, I'm still gonna hit minor pentatonic a good deal of it, but do a lot more chromatic stuff if the song lets me do that.
Yeah, and I've been playing blues forever, and there's probably a lot of years of my life where I just strictly played the minor pentatonic, and I might have hit that major third once in a while, or of course I played the blues note, and stuff like that. But I'll be honest, I really never understood, way back in the day, the difference in hitting the seventh chords, hitting your seventh on the one, your seventh on the four, and your seventh on the five, and being able to make sure you hit those target notes, because that is a different animal. And I really never realized that, because a lot of people I started watching YouTube videos where a lot of people are looking at blues and they're getting more detailed into it, talking about, all this stuff. And I'm thinking, man, blues is blues. I've been doing it forever. It's
right.
like,
but the bends that we do, and you're leaning toward, we did that back in the 70s, but you're doing little half and quarter bends that are creating that kind of mixolydian kind of sound, or
that's exactly right.
The bluesy stuff. I don't know what a mixolydian mode is, but
that's okay.
But the sound,
you play it, I guarantee you that.
I play it, but I don't look at it as a mode. I just look at adding the major third of the chord basically to the minor pentatonic. So there's so many ways to get at that kind of stuff.
There is.
Love it.
That's one of the biggest things I've learned since I've had my YouTube channel from watching videos such as, you and just other, really great channels. Really comes down to that, because I really have focused for a lot of years on just those major scale modes and, building my pentatonics, within those modes, and things like that. But man, when I started learning, the blues stuff and learning, how to hit the target notes, when you're doing the blues stuff, I mean, you're literally, if you're playing a blues with all the seventh chords, you literally can't play a minor pentatonic for all that. It just won't work. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of clashing going on with the notes. Yeah, for sure.
It is. Yeah. And it's like,
I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan did it a lot, but he's Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah. But he's hitting some stuff in there that, that works.
He's tweaking stuff. Yeah. He had such a great ear for that bluesy stuff within the minor pentatonic. He definitely tweaked the notes in a way that had leaned toward the major third sound and stuff like that. Yeah,
he's definitely got some signature licks that I don't want to try to play it, but it's something of the line of just doing and he's hitting this note here, so and that right there is nowhere in the G minor pentatonic scale, so it's
no, he does it so fast.
Yeah, he just does it so fast. Exactly. So when he hits this note here, if he hit it real slow, it wouldn't work, but fast. All the rest of it's a blues scale, I can't do it, but he just does it so fast and so
intentional. I mean, it's like it's not just something, nonchalant. He's like, everything he played was very aggressive and confident. Absolutely. Always confident. Yep.
Absolutely.
So as the 80s came on and he came on the scene later on, then I really was drawn to that sound big time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, I can't play quite like that, but definitely that bluesy influence, love that style.
Man, you're good. You are solid. Stuff. I love some of the stuff you done in your videos where you did the rhythm, basically the Stevie Ray Vaughan rhythm. I never really understood that because I played some Stevie Ray Vaughan stuff, but I don't remember really having that really cool.
It's that shuffle, that kind of
that shuffle kind of thing. Exactly.
Yeah, I kind of always, and I learned that from my uncle who showed me how to play. He always had that kind of right hand motion, almost no matter what he was playing. That right hand almost never stopped. But there's so many rhythms, in rock stuff. Just that right hand is the key to the whole sound.
Absolutely. And you're playing one of my favorite bands right there, man. We did all those songs. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and that style, there's a lot of that chunky rhythm stuff. I just always have been drawn to that.
There is, yeah.
And the obviously Just as simple as that, just that gets people moving. There's
love it.
something about it, you know, and
Absolutely.
that's if you want to just jam with some guys, that's all you got to do.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's good stuff.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, talking about jamming with guys and just learning how to improvise and learning how to just play those kinds of rhythms and stuff like that.
That's where you learn. Yeah,
I had a friend of mine, a guy I knew. It's been forever ago. I don't remember how old I was, but we would basically get in a room. We'd both have some kind of amps, whether it be Marshall, Half-Staff, or whatever. It didn't matter what it was. And we would get a drum machine going through a PA or something, or through a speaker of some kind or another. And we basically would just get, and I remember specifically, it was that AC/DC, it was that AC/DC beat. And it was never anything fancy. It was never any kind of bluesy, nothing. It was literally the AC/DC, Back in Black or whatever.
but it's that kind of rhythm you can really jam to
Totally.
and improvise. Yeah.
And we would, just like me and you are doing this live stream, I swear we would go back and forth, me and him, where I would play for, 5 or 10 minutes of rhythm and he'd play lead.
5 or 10 minutes.
He'd play 5 or 10 minutes worth of rhythm. I'd play lead. We could play for an hour, it's just going back and forth. But it wasn't the same songs. It wasn't the same music. And we literally changed it up on all the rhythms, and, different kinds of leads and stuff. And that's one of the ways, I remember learning a lot of chops, and a lot of my style is just from, doing stuff like that.
Absolutely. Is a huge.
It's all improvising.
Yeah.
And now it's no different than, your backing tracks that you have available. So
obviously you can learn with tracks, but just the interaction with other musicians, even just sitting down with another guitar player,
totally different.
Trading stuff back and forth with some of these simple rhythms. It's, you learn from other players. You're just learning about yourself and your limitations, what you might want to get better at. You're going to know, because you're going to get stuck at some point, and I wish I knew to go up here and do this and this, and then it just kind of pushes you to learn and be a better player.
It really does, because you can play to records or to backing tracks or whatever all day long, and might sound pretty good. You might be feeling pretty good about it, but then all of a sudden when you start playing with real musicians, it's like, okay, well, this is real stuff here.
You're out there, you're sticking
there is no sync track going on. There's, it's like, this is for real, and you gotta find those pockets, and
you're gonna make mistakes, but it's okay. I mean, it's just,
you're
gonna learn from them. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Totally. Well, hey, I don't know if we got any questions or not, but I've got, is it Jocelyn? Is that right? Jocelyn Grace. Hi. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Glad you stopped by. All right.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by. We really appreciate it. Very cool. So go ahead and jam a little bit there, man.
What's that?
I said, go ahead and jam a little bit there.
So is my guitar volume decent to you?
Sounds pretty good. Yeah, every time, once in a while, I think I want to start cutting out a little bit, but I think it's good.
Another thing, I really was into like Ted Nugent stuff, because he was seriously just raw guitar player.
Me too, 100%, dude. 100%. So play that first part of that rhythm again.
It's
so that first lick, this will kind of give you an idea of just learning by, playing by ear and never really trying to know for sure if I got it exactly right.
Well, I don't know
I always,
either. He's another guy. He played it a little different live than he did on his recording too.
oh,
So
totally, totally, totally.
as long
But
as
I've
you're
always
in,
done it kind of like this, and I know it's not exactly the same, but it's kind of like,
yeah,
yeah, it's good.
yeah. I mean, I love that kind of stuff. We definitely jammed on on that kind of stuff. Anything that was just a few chords and had a good groove to it. That's what we did.
Yeah,
'Cause
my last classic rock band, if you were to see our song list, I think that it'd be stuff that you'd love and you'd just get right into real easily. We did the Ted Nugent. I mean, that song right there, it's like, again, I didn't really have no big crowds and all that kind of stuff because we just didn't play any really killer places where we could draw a big crowd. But man, we could play, Stranglehold. And I always did Peter Frampton, Do You Feel Like We Do? And I did spend a lot of time. That's one of them that I was talking about a while ago. If you don't use it, you lose it. Well, I made sure during the time that I had the band, I played all the time, practiced that. And I tried to remember as much as I could. It's more about memory than it is really playing the licks. Although I did a video about this particular song, and I did just the intro. And there's one thing that he does I'd have to show it to you, but it's like, it's so technical, it's so precise. And I know that for years I never even tried to play it the right way. I just did my own thing.
Yeah,
it worked, but it was that one part that when I got ready to do that video, I said, you know what, I'm gonna really try to figure this out.
Yep.
And I went and looked at some live versions of him doing it, and I found this one guy that was doing a version of it, and I could just see his guitar so clearly. I mean, he did it where it was so perfect. I could see everything he was doing, and that was one of the reasons why I thought, well, if I can just do it the way this guy's doing it, that's pretty close, almost dead on to what Peter Frampton's doing. I can't see Peter Frampton because I watched a ton of live videos, and it's too fast. The camera's moving too quick. It's just hard to see.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Got it, but you can't really tell.
Well, Jeff stopped in. Good to hear from you, Jeff, over here. And then Jocelyn, we are doing great. We're just talking about some rock and roll and the stuff we used to play back in the 70s, basically.
Absolutely. So, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. How you say the name there? Is that somebody you know right there?
I don't recognize the name, but glad you stopped by.
Yeah. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. Jocelyn from Brazil. That's awesome.
Nice.
Hello. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here. Argentina. Cool. That's awesome. That is very cool. All right, awesome. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. We've tried to cover as much of our fellow secrets as we can kind of, think of, and I've asked some questions, and Les has been so kind to hang out and share a lot of stuff. But if you guys have any questions, anything at all, I mean, just fire away. I'm happy to we can together answer them, or if you got a question for one of either of us, it doesn't matter.
A few more people checking in too, but
throw them in there. Yeah.
I love playing this.
Michael.
If I play hey, Michael, yeah.
Yeah, I know Michael. I'm sorry, I picked the wrong person there. Sorry. Rust. Oh, hey, Rusty, got you from Ontario. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for hanging out. Yeah, let me
up north there a little bit.
Yeah, let me bring Michael up here. Hey, Michael, great to have you, man. This is cool. I've been gonna do some of these live streams and invite you on. I'm glad you made it to one, man. So Michael, I've jammed with him. He's somebody's local, and we've had some really cool times jamming, and that is so cool. Love it. My biggest video fans too. So he's asking a question here. I can't figure out El Mama by what is it? That's Savoy. Savoy Brown, help. I don't know. That one there doesn't come to me. You got anything on that, Rusty?
No. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, you missed us on that one, brother. Sorry, man.
I remember. I think I remember that tune, but I definitely do not know it. I'm not going to butcher it.
I'll sure check it out. I'll go back and look at these comments and anything I can do to.
Yeah.
That's cool. Very good stuff.
But for me, I was just drawn to the Billy Gibbons and Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, because you could hear that they were using just power chords and the pentatonic scale. In the phrases, the simple rhythms and phrases they were doing, it sounded doable for me. It sounded like it was something I could learn, and I still spend a lifetime trying to learn some of this stuff, but it's just it's more fun now, just knowing some of the patterns and techniques that those guys use, man.
Yeah, that's very cool. And again, even Jimmy Page, I mean, he's still doing a lot of stuff he's mixing the major minor. They all are. I feel like, I mean, there's very, very few of our, great players that we love. I mean, where they're just sticking to an A minor pentatonic scale through the whole song. You know what I'm saying? They're hitting those other notes. I feel like they are. And they're just doing things that are really subtle. It's just part of their style, and you don't really notice it. But when you start breaking down some of their solos and stuff, I mean, you can tell. I mean, they're definitely mixing the major and minors, and they're doing all kinds of stuff. A lot of your players really are a lot more melodic, and do a lot more, what I would call more modal stuff, as far as hitting the 7-note scales and stuff like that. Especially a lot of your old, like bands like I love, like Journey's a great example. Neil Schon, what he does is he'll basically. And I don't know this for a fact, but it feels like he's melodic with more of the mode scales and kind of the 7-note
Absolutely,
scales.
Yeah.
But then all his fast stuff is literally the pentatonic scales. I mean, he's doing the fast pentatonic, whether it be, whatever position, based off like a Mixolydian scale or whatever, it doesn't matter.
But he has that melodic thing going on.
He does.
As his whole solo evolves. Yeah, I mean, I love that Journey stuff, especially the early stuff. Really like it.
Yeah, and one of the last bands, actually, the last band I was actually in, other than just jamming with folks, was a Journey tribute band, and we did about 35 of the Journey songs, and spending time learning all those songs, and I can never say I learned any of the solos note for note, but I just kind of tried to get better and better as I played along.
Yeah, because he's a hard guy to copy.
Yeah, every time we get ready for rehearsal or a show, it's like, I'd go through there and I'd play through all the songs, and there might be one part of a solo. It's like, oh yeah, that note there. Okay, I see. And I would catch something as, little at a time. And eventually I got better at all the solos, but I just learned a lot about, what Neil Schon does, and kind of some of the stuff that really makes a great player, when you're trying to emulate somebody like that. So
we got a few other questions in there. I don't know if you've seen them.
Looks like we do. Let's see here. So let me go and bring this one up here. I don't know if I can pronounce that first name, Nahul, maybe. But what's your favorite setup for amps and pedals? Do you have a go-to combination for your tone? Excellent question.
Well, yeah, for me, I'm using this little combo amp. It's a Carr Mercury V. I'm using that tonight, and I love to grab that amp and go. It's basically like a little Marshall, with some good clean tones in it. I'm still a hardcore tube amp guy.
Yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
that's what I like, and I love the Bassman. That stuff too. It's just not as reliable. But I really just use a little bit of reverb and delay when I play out with this combo and a couple dirt pedals. And my favorite is probably the J Rocket Audio Archer, which is like a Klon style pedal, just a great couple $100 pedal that you step on it and it really just digs in and gets you that raw sound. But
Yeah,
I if I'm playing out, it's usually that a simple setup just with a couple things like that. I like to set my amps up clean and push them with a couple drive pedals. It just reminds me of the stuff that we grew up with in the 70s and 80s, the raw tone, because there
absolutely.
wasn't a lot of pedals back then. It was just raw amp sound.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done all that. I mean, there's a lot of years that I played where I really didn't have a tube amp, and I just tried to do everything with effects, whether it be whatever pedals I had, distortion pedals and stuff like that. But once I started playing in tube amps, especially the Marshalls, and I've had other kinds of tube amps also. But my last classic rock band, I pretty much had a Marshall half stack, but I like to do just exactly what you said. I like to play with the clean sound of the Marshall for the most part. And I mean, I can't remember. There's one pedal I had that's really popular. It's not DOD. It's I can't think what it is now, but it was a real aggressive distortion pedal, and it was just a little bit too much, and then I went to like a Tube Screamer. I had one of those, and I forget, I had a couple of pedals. I always loved some kind of pedal that sounded close to a Marshall. I may not be using the actual Marshall sound, but something close to that Marshall sound, and tried to do that. And then I always played with some kind of chorus pedal. For a long time, I played with delay pedal, like just the regular Boss delay, the white pedal, pedal that's been around forever.
Yeah.
And, that one there, it's like, I'd use it for effects sometimes, but then for the longest time, I think I just kind of got used to just taking the delay way down, where it's just barely there, but having it on all the time. But because it just added depth, to everything I play, especially if I was the only guitar player, and that type of thing. So, and then I always loved to have a wah-wah pedal, so,
Yeah, for
and then I
sure.
like to have a boost. I had like a really small, I don't have my pedal board close by, or I would break it out, but I used to have I still have it, but it's a small boost pedal. I can't remember names right now of the brands because it's been so long, but it was just a really small, and all it did was boost, because for a long time I tried to boost. I'd play solos, at a show, and somebody said, well, hey, you need to crank it up when you're playing the solo. We can't hear it, or you need to tell the sound man to hit, bring you up or whatever. It's always something. And I thought, man, I got to do something. So I finally, instead of using like a compressor or some kind of more distortion or something that just muddied up the sound, I finally started using this boost pedal, just a really small, cheap boost
Clean
pedal,
boost, yep.
$100. And I mean, that saved me. I mean, that thing right there, it didn't hurt the sound or anything. It just gave me that boost to where it made the difference,
Yeah, almost everybody uses one now.
Yeah.
Just a clean boost.
You got to have it for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, cool deal. Good question. We got Nick D. Thanks for joining us, Nick. Jimmy Page, a master using major and minor. Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about that, man. Yeah, but whenever I was, first playing guitar, you always have these friends that are into certain bands, or they're, you're into one, group of bands that you're into, and then they're into somebody. Well, I had this one friend of mine. He was 100% Led Zeppelin all the way. And to be honest, I'd never really heard much Led Zeppelin before him. And we'd get together and jam, and stuff, and he'd be playing all this Led Zeppelin stuff. I said, man, I started listening to it. But I mean, he was a Led Zeppelin freak, man. He loved it. And of course, I fell in love with it too, eventually. So.
Yeah, he did that mixing, just slightly mixing major and minor, and that's just the sound
Yeah.
the rock blues rock sound. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's like you said about Angus Young earlier. I wouldn't have really realized that he mixed major and minors. To me, it's either major or he's playing something minor, but he really did mix them. And that's one of the things I've kind of learned through since I've probably in the last few years since I've had my YouTube channel, just by watching a lot of people and listening to a lot of different perspectives, on the way people, especially all the great ones, played, because I never really studied all that. I just did it by ear. Whatever my ear told me was right, I would use that. And if I needed to kind of improvise from there, I would do that. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So we got some good questions here. We got people rolling with us. That's great. Let's see. I've got Michael. It's got another question here, which I love this. What's the most efficient way to memorize the fretboard? You want to take that one?
It's a toughie. Honestly, I it's really taken the low E and A string for me is this. If you're struggling with that, just this is an open E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Once you know that low string and that is your root for the A chord, bar chord. I mean, and right there, and then the A string. You should know the notes on those two strings.
Absolutely.
A, B, C, D, E. Just knowing those two, and then you can, if you play a G minor pentatonic, that G is right there.
Yeah.
From there, once you just learn those simple couple strings, you just use the octaves. 2 frets
exactly
up,
right.
2 frets up and 2 strings down on these 2 strings here. You have that octave.
Exactly right.
3 frets up and 2 strings down is the next octave. Literally, that's how I did it, and I didn't do it overnight, and I don't suggest sitting down with a diagram and trying to learn them all that way either. Learn them as you're playing. When you're playing a scale, A minor pentatonic, know that that's an A note. Know that that's an A note.
Yep.
Because you can build your phrases from that simple root note.
Absolutely.
Just from the root note, and I'm literally, that's all I'm doing right there is looking ahead at the root.
Right. That's exactly right.
That's how I would. That's how I would approach it. Just do it as you're practicing. Don't for me. Don't do it separately. Like that's a separate task. Everything you play, try to look down and know what those notes are, little by little. The low strings to the high strings.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, so much of it, goes back to learning that major scale and playing like the major scale on every string, or whatever. Like if you start with this E, then you can just basically, go up the fretboard.
Yes.
And then that major scale there. But for me personally, I did a video on this because it's just something I kind of come up with. But obviously, if you learn this string here and this string here, you got those notes down, you're good to go there. Well, the most important next one is this A string. So if you can nail down this E and this E and this A, then these other ones are going to come from learning your octaves, things like that,
So you're already halfway there just with those 3 strings. You're halfway
you are
there. So
you really are, and it's like once you just start. And for me, the longest time I didn't really know every single note. Didn't. If you told me asked me where an E flat was, for instance, on certain string, it's like, okay, well, let me figure that out. Or I may not be able to hit it just immediately, but you can always use your octaves, which obviously your 12th fret is your octave on every string. So if you're trying to figure out what this note right here is, do you know that note right off the top of your head? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if I do this, I know it's a B because because I got that octave right there. Same thing with that note there. I know that's a B just because I got the octave. And so that right there really helped me, just those octaves like we talked about, Same thing with, sorry, this one here. You got once you know your arpeggios too, that kind of helps you as far as, because you'll always know, kind of where you're at on whatever scale it is. You can always find whatever note it is and know what that note is, because obviously if you know this is an E, then 2 frets down's a D, and so C sharp, it's kind of, but learning that top string, or I'm sorry, that's wrong terminology. I guess the low string, the bottom string, I guess you call it. But this string right here, once you learn it, I mean, that to me is that in the A string, of course, in the other E string is really the key to it, because once you've got those down, the rest of them just kind of come a lot easier, and you can find them, so much easier as far as.
And then these lessons on YouTube that a lot of these guys are trying to learn from, they're gonna make more sense to you if you know the fretboard. So that just take the time to do it, but just do it as you're practicing. That it just looking down and visualizing the A note and B note and C note, and just as you play a chord, as you play a scale, at least know the root of the chord and the scale, and then this stuff will just, from there, it will just come to you.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add to that is when I think about, his question is, what's the most efficient way to memorize the fretboard? When I think about memorizing the fretboard, I don't necessarily think about, knowing wherever E flat is or wherever, B flat is or whatever. I'm thinking more numbers. How do I memorize the fretboard? I focus on the numbers. If I know where my 1 is, then I can tell you where everything else is, and so that's kind of another way of looking at it, as far as, for me anyway, is just knowing where the numbers are. So whatever, if you're in a major scale or minor, it doesn't matter what you're in, you kind of know, what numbers you're on those scales, or whatever key you're in or anything like that. So, and the other thing that comes to mind is just the cage system. I like what Guthrie we talked about Guthrie a while ago, remember?
Yeah.
So one of the things he says, the cage system, he says, he doesn't necessarily really love that term, but he says, doesn't matter what you want to call it, it's the way the guitar is tuned. It's the same way the guitar has been built and tuned forever, and it's the chords, everything about the scales and the chords and everything like that. It's just the way the guitar is made, but learning those caged shapes, that's memorizing the fretboard in a big way, because a big part of that is whatever cage shape you're in, you could play all the chords to, say, a major key, or whatever you're playing. If you're playing something with just 3-4 chords in it or whatever, you can take every caged shape, and you can start with that 1 chord or whatever it is, and you can find those other chords within that, those 4 frets or so on the guitar, wherever you're at. So when I think about memorizing the fretboard, that's really what comes to mind more, to me. But again, it's one of those things where I'm sure there's a million answers.
Right. And it's we talked about it earlier, is just visualizing, you visualizing an A note, an A chord, an A scale. You have to be able to look down and see this stuff, and you need to know what notes you're playing. It's just, it helps you if you're going to play anything with any confidence, you at least need to know the fretboard.
Absolutely.
In my opinion. Even Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix might not have known deep theory, but they knew the fretboard.
They knew the fretboard.
Yes,
all of them knew the fretboard. There's no doubt about that.
It just takes some time. It
does.
Just focus a little bit every day, and it will happen for sure.
Absolutely. Well, cool deal. Great question, Michael. Hope we answered that well for you. Let's see what Jeff has to say here. Best thing I learned was it's okay to play the same note more than once. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Or a phrase more than one time. Just playing, yeah, repeating a phrase or repeating notes is such a good tool.
Yeah.
So many of our guitar heroes do that in a very simple way. So that's don't be afraid of it is great to say that, Jeff. Yep.
Absolutely. And as far as licks are concerned, I've always, for some reason, just wanted to play like double notes, whatever. But there's these licks like
Repeating licks, yeah.
repeating licks like that, where you're playing, but even just phrases, where you're kind of hitting the same note twice, basically,
Yeah,
a lot of
do
phrases.
anything except for this.
What's that?
Don't just play the scale up and down.
Right.
Once you know those notes, just get away from this mechanical kind of motion. Just make sure you
Exactly.
can play it alternate picking. So important just to get flow within the scale. So important.
And it's about being in the pocket.
Yep, yeah,
It's about
it
being in the
helps your
pocket
timing.
and being in the groove. Yeah.
Because if you're doing all downstrokes, it's a little dicey.
Well, I mean,
If you're
there's
digging
very
on
few-
something that's different.
Yeah, most of the stuff you're going to be playing with another musician. I mean, you're just not going to be able to go. It's going to be just, it's not even going to come to your mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even if that's all you know, you're still going to feel something. Any kind of sequence is better than just.
Because if you practice that way, you're gonna, when you improvise, that's what you're gonna do.
You're going to do some of that. Yeah.
If you practice doing phrases, that's what you're gonna do when you improvise is play phrases. So
That's a really good point. That's a really
Yeah.
good point. Yeah, I find myself playing some of the same stuff all the time. I think that's part of the.
we all do that.
We all do that.
I'm afraid.
We all do that, but some of it I kind of attribute to my style, and then other parts it's laziness or whatever. So. But hey, these comments are coming in, questions are coming in, man. This is pretty awesome. Jeff, making sure I'm not missing. Let me scroll up here and just make sure I'm not missing anything here.
Michael said something about an EQ pedal. Yeah, there's so many players that use an EQ pedal as like a boost with a little bit of edge to it. It's I definitely use one myself. So it's another thing that EQ pedal is great for pickups. If you have a darker pickup, you might love the guitar, but one of your pickups might be too bright or too dark. That's just one way to really shape the tone that you want. So you can your guitar is a lot more usable that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we were talking about a while ago with the boost, I mean, a lot of times I used to use a compressor for a boost, and I think that was just too much. EQ pedal, I could see where would be a little bit better. Get you a little smoother. Cleaner boost. So.
And then Jeff said something about the rut note, R-U-T.
Where's he at?
Everybody makes fun of the way I say root note. I don't know. I don't know why, but it is an important thing, Jeff. Even though we joke about it. Honestly, it's how I visualize, look down and see groups of notes around the root. If I look and see that A note there, I know the A chord's there. Right below that's a E chord, and you know that there's a scale right there. And so once you know that, when you go up to another rut note, I just see a chord shape around that rut.
Absolutely. And learn your arpeggios really helps with that too.
Absolutely,
A
yeah,
lot.
because you're right, absolutely, and that's another way to visualize and just another tool to, and that's really what it's all about for me is when you improvise it, you have to visualize and use rhythmic musical phrases. They have to have some movement to them. If you can do those couple things, if you can visualize and see chord shapes and scales, and have a little rhythm to them, you're well on your way to be a good improviser.
Absolutely. I like that for sure. I've got to bring this one up here. And Scott is saying, speaking of clan clones, really been enjoying my note. I'm not sure. Not sure what you're saying there, Scott. I'm trying to,
Is that
if you can clarify a little better.
the
I'll come back
clon?
to you. Huh?
Oh, that I think that's a type of clon pedal that at the end there that
Oh, okay.
no to clon, not a clon.
That's
But
a
it
type of pedal.
yeah, it's just
Okay.
another clone of a clon pedal. Just that there's so many of them out there. There's some great ones out there. I just love that style of pedal. And I said earlier, I just use that J Rocket Audio Archer, which is a great one. But it does like kicks your amp into a little more breakup too. But there's a boost thing that goes on, but it's clean. It's not real. It's not real hairy like a tube screamer pedal at all. It's just a totally different vibe.
Okay.
The clon style pedal. It's just it kind of adds a lot of dimension to your playing. I just
I have to check that
definitely
out.
yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah.
I have not seen one of those. That's kind of cool. And Michael comes back and says he's with Scott and he has two of them running them together. Again, I've
Oh
never
yeah,
seen
yeah.
one, don't know much about them, but that's awesome.
Yeah, when you do them together, it adds a really nice thickness. A lot of clarity though. That's the thing, with a tube screamer is there's you kind of loosen clarity, which is good for some applications, but a clon style pedal it adds some overdrive, but it's with a lot of clarity.
So really, so it's an overdrive pedal then.
Basically, if most players just use it, with a lot of barely having gain, kicked up on it. They're not gainy pedals at all anyway.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. Yeah, you're right. The tube screamer, man, it can get really muddy. I have noticed that. So yeah, I do see Jeff's question about the the rut note. I missed that a while ago, but you've already covered that one. I missed the comment there.
I've had hundreds of comments on that, and it's just the way I say it. I probably say root, ROOT, guys
Yeah.
and gals, but it's just an important part of how I visualize a fretboard, so I do say it in almost every video, I'm afraid.
Well, the thing about one thing I've had trouble with, and again, this is terminology. It's like I'm sitting here playing the guitar, and I'm telling you, it's this top string right here, and this is the bottom string. Well, to me, it looks like this is the top, and this is the bottom. To me, it feels that way. It looks that way when I'm watching myself play, whatever. But the right terminology, I've been straightened out on that plenty of times. This is not the top string, and this is not the bottom string.
I try to say low and high to.
And it's so hard for me to do.
Right, but it is, yeah.
I don't know why I can't get that down, but it's like, man, I cannot. Okay, this is the low string. This is the high string. It's like I want to say bottom and top.
Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting with somebody trying to teach them something, it's easy to
gets me in trouble
figure
every
that
time.
out. Right, you'll get somebody that will comment, right?
Oh man, I've had lots of comments. I mean, just trust me, pretty wild. Like this one. What's y'all's take on call and response phrasing? What's y'all's take on call and response phrasing? I'll let you. You want to tackle that one?
That is such a great way to play. It's more like you can do it with rhythm. like that, and then playing a lead phrase.
That's what you
Or-
call call and response phrase?
Yeah, I mean, Billy Gibbons is really great at that.
Yeah.
That's just a great way to think about it, is playing a phrase, and then somebody said something about leaving some space and silence in between is such a good way to play the guitar.
Well, I've done some videos. And for me, it's like you just kind of have and really this is more of a practicing thing, but it really is playing music. You know, just play your A chord and F sharp minor.
Yep, that's a great way to practice, because you're playing a chord, you're playing notes that hug that chord. You know, you're probably looking at a scale probably, but whatever you can do to connect that chord is going to make you a better guitar player.
Absolutely.
You know, so
Totally.
you know, playing any kind of chord like you did and playing a phrase just that connects to the chord, and play another chord. It's like you were doing. It's just that's a great way to practice.
I feel like it is. Yeah. I did a video about that one time, and I really had to study on it a lot before I did the video. But I remember just thinking about that concept, you know. Of course, I practiced a lot in different types of, in different keys, you know, different scales, different things like that. But it started kind of coming more natural to me the more I practiced on my own time, you know, and just, you know, it just come more natural to do it that way. And so it seems like it's just kind of a, you know, I pick up the guitar and I do something like that now, kind of more natural, to where before I had to think about doing it, you know. So
Yeah, that's the great. When you pick up the guitar, if you do that every time, you're gonna zoom right up the ladder for sure.
yeah, for sure. So let's get this one on the screen here. Sorry, I'm a little slow with the comments. This is silencer. Is this important? Silencer rest.
No, just silence in between phrases. I think
Silence in between phrases.
that's what I think. That's what we were talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is as important as the note. Yeah, absolutely. Basically the silence, and the phrasing, and really being in the pocket, you know, knowing how to get in the right groove. I think that's a big part of it, because there's going to be that silent part in there to where, you know, it's
you're going to anticipate the next thing the guitar player is going to say. Yeah.
It's all about feel, and it's all about expression. It's all about playing from the heart, you know, straight up, you know.
Yep, sure.
Very cool. So Jeff says, I'm jiving you. I'm jiving you. Is that a joke that he said earlier, or something he was kidding about, or something? I might be a little slow. Sorry.
Oh, I think he was talking about it because he's the one that said the rut note. So he's.
Oh, okay, cool.
I believe that's in response to that.
I'm glad I'm with you, Rusty, on this live. If I was doing this by myself, I'd be like, okay, and I wouldn't have anybody to ask.
You know? I just have it on my little phone here, so I'm having to look down a little bit, but I just want to.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't know what you were looking at, so that's interesting. So here's one right here. Let's see what we got. I find a lick that sounds nice. I play it through different octaves or parts of the same scale in other octaves. It really helps me navigate the fretboard.
That is the ticket.
I'm with
right
you
there.
100% on that.
Many
Absolutely.
players don't do that. They're really stuck in small areas of the fretboard, and it just really holds you back. You know, it's just takes a little bit of forethought. You know, with knowing that a G note's here, let's say, and there's another one here. You can play that phrase. Just
Absolutely.
that knowledge, it's huge, because once you have those down, you're going to figure out some notes in between those that work, and you're just going to be off to the races, going back and forth on the fretboard.
I totally agree. And one of the things I love to do is just playing a simple lick, or something, whatever, something like that. There it is. I think that was right. Somewhere in there, but you're basically just playing a lick and learning how to play it in different spots. And that's really helped me a lot, because I just enjoy. And you kind of got to know your positions, because it's pentatonic. It's easy to play right here. Not so much right here.
See, now you know something to practice.
Exactly, yeah.
And the root note is part of that, knowing
It is.
the root is a part of locating or visualizing little areas.
It is, yeah. And I was trying to do it there off the top of my head, but most of the time what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some kind of lick into that. You know what I mean? So I may play this lick here. I'm probably not going to go straight to that octave. I'm going to play some kind of something to get me there. Whatever, you know what I mean? And so a lot of times it's just kind of getting to that point, where you're at that next basically octave, of that same lick. So It's an excellent point. Excellent right there. Love it. So Michael says it's a build your own pedal by, okay. That's the one we were talking about a while ago, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Gotcha.
Right. But it's a Klon style pedal. I've never tried it or built one or anything like that, but I heard good things about it.
Okay, cool.
So it sounds like they like it too.
Yeah, I got to check it out, man. I hadn't been into pedals in so long. Whenever I was in the Journey tribute band, the drummer was kind of like the leader of the band, really good friend of mine, and he had this Helix pedal. In fact, I played it, Jen, with Michael with this one, but yeah, ever since I've had that Helix, I've just been kind of working through, trying to get my certain sounds from it, best I could. And as far as the pedals, I hadn't played the pedals since way before COVID when I was in my classic rock band, so, and I've got another, it's kind of like, it's not a Helix, but it's like I'm trying to think what it is, but it's really small, super small. And it's an all effect, it's got some good distortion sounds and stuff. But as far as actually playing with the real pedals and stuff, it's been so long, man. I don't even remember now, but there was a time where I was really into trying to find all these different tones, and the different pedals, and trying to do everything I could. Like I might have had in my pedal board 3 different distortion pedals,
Right. Yeah.
So I could get those different tones and stuff. So
yeah, and I still do. I got a problem.
You got a problem? That's funny.
I have learned these guys. There's so many, different demos on these pedals that these guys are such good players. They make anything sound good. A lot of them. So it's not a good. It's not a good thing always to trust what you're hearing and seeing. Just keep it simple and really search things out before you buy them. That's for sure. Because there's no magic thing. I don't think. Magic pedal, it's going to make you a lot better player or nothing like that.
Yeah. What I was going to say, say to that is I used to go to like Guitar Center, and you're trying to practice, trying to pick out a pedal that you like, or check some different pedals out. But it takes so long to get a guitar that'll even stay in tune.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
It's like it's ridiculous. And I've went to the Guitar Center before, and not knocking the Guitar Center, it's awesome. But I'd go there and I'm trying to find an amp that I want. Well, man, I finally figured out I better just take my own guitar with me. You know what I mean? Because otherwise I'm wasting my time. And so if I take my own guitar and I'm playing through that amp, then I can really start checking out some amps and figure out where I'm at. But if I'm trying to play one of their guitars,
you never pick one off the shelf and it's in tune ever.
It's a beating, man, trying to find one that's in tune.
And the strings are like an inch off the fretboard.
Yeah. But I would take my own. If I was picking out a guitar, I'd take my own amp. If I was picking out an amp, I'd take my own guitar.
Really is the best way to do it. It's just kind of a hassle, but it is the best way.
It worked for sure. So we got so easy to teach lefties. So we got a lefty guitar player here.
It's probably because they look at it in reverse as they're visualizing us.
Yeah.
That might be why he's saying that.
Gotcha. Jeff's got another comment here. Rusty has a very unique vibrato. Vibrato is so personal and important. Man, that's such a great point, because I'll let Rusty speak to that. But man, first of all, I did a video on that not so long ago. Well, it's been a while back, but and I literally found what I thought were signature vibratos. Number one was Zach Wilde. He's amazing when it comes to his signature vibrato.
Yeah.
And then I forget who all I picked. I picked, obviously David Gilmour, and I think I got a copyright.
Oh, really?
I think I got a copy. It wasn't a strike, but it was definitely something, because I had some shots of David Gilmour and I don't know, Zach Wilde and a few other people. I forget who it was, but I tried to pick out some of the best vibratos. But vibrato is absolutely a unique thing, and you can almost tell a player by their vibrato.
Yeah, and if I'm not comfortable, you end up playing your vibrato. If you're like, you don't want to have a fast, out of control vibrato. I even get that way sometimes if I'm not paying attention. But I love that Angus Young. He kind of bends it to the pitch and then vibrato.
I know. There's a million ways to do it. If you're a singer, one of the first things you learn, especially if you're singing in the studio and, you're in, really trying to, record something or whatever. But the first thing they'll tell you, you don't sing and you hit a vibrato immediately. It's not, just hit that vibrato immediately. You hit the note first, and then you go into whatever that vibrato is. And so I always just kind of use that concept when it comes to guitar. It's got to be the same thing.
Yeah, even if you're landing on a note, right. I like that Eric Clapton kind of little.
Isn't that a Billy Gibbons kind of a thing too?
He does it too, yeah.
Yeah, kind of a going back and forth kind of a thing. And then of course you got the BB King.
Yeah, I get a little carried away myself sometimes.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, it's like I mess around with stuff like that every once in a while, but yeah, it really is a signature thing. It honestly is. I mean, it's a fun thing to explore, just to see what you can come up with and cool stuff.
And your tone has a lot to do with that too. If you the sound of your instrument. If I didn't, I have this drive pedal on, right now, but if I turn it off, kind of a dry signal there.
Yeah.
I have no incentive or any. I see the vibrato is not the same, but when I kick this in, you kind of you play different. So you need a sound that's inspires you, is what I should say.
And I'm kind of a delay freak. I mean, it's like it's too much. I know it is. It's like I'm overkill when it comes to delay. But for me, you get that delay set just right, man, and then the vibrato sounds that much better.
Oh, I like it. I used to delay a lot,
I
actually.
love it.
But even and when you're recording, the delay kind of gets lost in there. It
Yeah,
kind of your sound just sounds a little wider.
for sure.
So that's many people use it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and go with this one here. Jeff says, do either of you do your own guitar repair building? I have really learned to enjoy that as well as playing. Man, I can answer that question for you honestly. And it's like, all I know how to do is put strings on a guitar and play it. That's the honest truth. I don't know the first thing. And it's really because I'm lazy. And it's just because ever since I can remember, I'm going to kind of date myself, but way, way, way back in the day, there was this music store. And eventually the music store kind of closed down. Well, one of the guys went and opened another music store, but the guy that I really knew really well, he went and opened a guitar repair shop, and he worked out of his house. And ever since he went and got in business for himself, and he had a guitar repair shop, I've used him. I mean, he's took care of my guitars honestly for I don't want to say how many years, but a lot. 35 years probably. And he's still around, and I'm probably gonna go see him and take a couple of my guitars to him here not too long from now. But I just never really. I always had him, and
Yeah,
that's
huge.
bring him a guitar, and he was fairly reasonable as far as pricing, and I just never really got into. The most I ever tried to do was try to do stuff with like tremolo bars, tremolo packages. Trying to mess with the Floyd Roses and the different type of things. But other than that. How about you, Rusty?
Yeah, I do pretty simple stuff because I do have a great tech guy pretty close to me also, who does rewiring and fret jobs and all that stuff. So
Exactly.
I would never get into that, but I actually on this Les Paul, I don't know if you ever look at that. This is an '81 original Les
Is it?
Paul. Look at all the marks and stuff from the.
I love it.
Yeah, this is. I got this a while back, but
Awesome.
because whoever had it before took the pickup covers off. I heard that it created a buzz. I had a pretty loud buzz in this guitar when I didn't even notice it when I bought it, but
Yeah.
Actually I watched a couple YouTube videos and drilled a hole from the pot into the stem of the this end tailpiece here and soldered a wire in there, and it stopped. The buzz
That is
stopped.
so cool.
I know, and I was actually scared to do it. I was really afraid to dig in there and do anything, but I just wanted the guitar to be a little more usable.
Yeah.
When I would crank it up with this bridge pickup, it had just a buzz, almost like a Strat does, kind of, and it shouldn't do that.
Right.
But I fixed it, so I feel fortunate. But I have a great tech guy, so I don't get into stuff too much.
Honestly. Me too. That's cool. Well, I'll tell you what, I gotta just tell a really quick story. So this guitar here, you can see it pretty. It's definitely an Epiphone Les Paul copy, no doubt about it. But some of my older videos when I first got started, just doing YouTube, which in the last 4 years, I would play this guitar. And this is one that I got from a buddy of mine that's a drummer, and he's also a guitar player. And I got it from him, I mean, a lot of years back when we were in a band together, and I would just, play it because it was his, and he'd let me play it. And eventually I just traded him out of it, and stuff. Well, he had basically put a Gibson emblem on this guitar. And, it just said Gibson. I mean, there really wasn't nothing else to it. It still had the Les Paul and all that stuff. And I never cared. I never worried about it. I never had not one. I played this on stage plenty of times. And I never had one person come up to me and give me a hard time and say, man, you're playing a Les Paul, an Epiphone Les Paul, and you're saying it's a Gibson. Man, what's wrong with you? You're stupid. You're an idiot, whatever. And I'm really giving you the soft story here, because whenever I started my YouTube channel and I started using this guitar with that Gibson emblem, I got beat
Oh, yeah.
down hard, man. I mean, you can go back and look at my old videos. I actually did a
believe it.
video. I actually did a video on it where, I mean, I wasn't rude or anything, but I was just saying, man, you guys, there's some haters out there, man, because it's like, I could care less. I just like playing the guitar. You know, it feels good to me. It plays good. I enjoy it. You know, I could care less. I just bought it from a buddy of mine, and you know, I guess he did that. I don't know who did it. I sure didn't do it. And they're calling me names and just, man, you're playing a Chipson, and I have to tell you, man, it really hurt my spirit. I mean, early on, that took me down a notch. I ain't kidding you. And there was probably a good while that I did not play this guitar on a video. I mean, you could probably look at my videos and you could see a pattern where I did that last video where, you know, I was kind of making, you know, talking about them making fun of me. And then from that point on, I said, I'm not even going to play this guitar until, you know, I take it to my guitar guy and get it fixed. Well, I took it to my guitar guy, and not to make this too long-winded of a story, but I took it to my guitar guy, and all he did, honestly, that Gibson sticker, it was just on there so lightly where anybody could have peeled it off. And right under the sticker was the Epiphone. And I'm thinking that he's going to have to like completely sand it down and do all
out of there.
stuff. And all I had to do was just take my little fingernail and just pull that Gibson sticker off, and it would have been perfect. And I could have saved all that pain and agony. I mean, you talk about wanting to work on your own guitar. I mean, I should have at least took a stab at that, and I didn't. And it cost me dearly, I'm gonna tell you.
Make sure mine's not a sticker.
No, man. I mean, anybody can see that's an Epiphone headstock. I'm not stupid.
Right, it's a little different, yeah.
But I didn't care, you know, that it had the Gibson emblem, and man, I got beat up.
Don't forget that.
I will never forget it. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, that's a good question right there. I like it. Michael is saying, talk about your right hand technique. I believe people overlook this right hand technique. That's a great question, Michael.
Absolutely.
How about that, Rusty?
And I have done videos that I do talk about the right hand, but it does not get talked about like it should. I mean, we were just talking a little bit earlier, for some of you guys joined us, you know, with Stevie Ray Vaughan, just that right hand. Your right hand is muting along with the up and down strokes, but you're muting with your left and your right hand for me. And I mean, that's what I'm hearing. But even all the rock songs that we know and love, there's so much muting. Just the up and down motion does not stop on a lot of rhythms that we love.
Right.
And I learned that early on. Luckily, it's so important to have the right hand movement, and not just for rhythm riffs, but as you go into a lead, it's just the same thing. Just a lot of the grooves that we love have that right hand does not stop. It's really getting the muting part of it, and I'm
Absolutely.
always in the ballpark of resting the side of my hand, you know, close to the bridge.
Right.
So if I get too much noise going on, I'm just kind of digging down a little bit, and because I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, it takes a long time, man, to really study the muting part of it. Because I'll be honest with you, you know, I mean, I didn't never really back in the day actually work on muting. I think whatever come natural, you know, whatever I was hearing. Obviously, I don't want things to sound sloppy and whatever. But I think it was just a deal where I just kind of, but I never really studied it. I never, and then when I started watching guitar YouTube videos, there's this one, I don't think he's totally all about muting, but his picking technique and stuff. There's a lot of channels out there that just focus on that right-handed picking, different techniques and stuff. But Ben Eller is one that I'll throw out there. Ben Eller, I mean, he has got some videos where he's talking about the right hand as far as the picking, but I'm sure a lot of it's the muting too.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the other thing is, I never really realized that you're muting a lot with your left hand too, until I started kind of studying it and started kind of looking at more what I was doing and saying, okay, well, yeah, I guess I am doing that,
Well, we talked earlier about as you play and jam with other players and you have an amp cranked up, you learn to start muting some of them notes because it sounds horrible.
Absolutely.
As you're playing some of these chords, so it's a lot of players are just playing with backing tracks and aren't don't have the volume and things going on.
Right.
I think we us growing up in the 70s and 80s playing, it just we learned a lot that way just from just trial and error.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is that right hand, obviously this part of your hand that, obviously takes care of these top strings, but then there's other things like, like you can actually play a note and you could actually take your one of your fingers and hold like that, say that string here. So you're not hearing that, that string.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Otherwise you could hear, I'm not doing it right, but you could hear this other string if you're not really, but you can just that little subtle bring it up on the screen.
Yeah. Well, the better you are with your muting, you're going to, you don't have to be so precise.
Yeah. So if you pick this bend, and a lot of times I'll just kind of like with this one of my fingers here, I'll just kind of hold that other string because I think that's the string that's going to make the noise because my right hand, top part of my hand, or I'm sorry, the right hand here gets these other strings is what I'm trying to say. But then you can hold like a string with one of your other fingers. And see, that's pretty clean to where you might hear that B string if I'm not careful. And that right there, I'm actually muting with kind of the same way, but I'm kind of catching it with my left hand as well too. So yeah, there's a lot to that, and it's not something I ever studied. It's not something I ever worked on. It's not something I sat down and said, okay, let me see how I can technically figure this out.
And as we were talking about Stevie Ray Vaughan too, he rakes like all of the. I just hit all the strings there, but you only hear one note.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It just gives it an aggressive sound.
100%.
It's like we're doing that stranglehold.
Absolutely. Totally.
I'm laying my fingers down and have my thumb touching this E string.
Yep.
So you can be aggressive with your right hand that way.
Right.
So it's not an easy task. You got to learn all these notes, and then it's another technique, but it's a skill that is really makes or breaks a player, from beginner to intermediate to advanced, is how well you can control the string noise.
Control the noise. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a huge point. Yeah. So, and I found myself on both sides of that, where I knew I had it down, and other times it's like, okay, well, I'm still hearing this noise. Let me figure out how to, fix that, so it's, I've been there for sure. Cool deal. Well, I like this comment here. No haters on Rusty's worship channel.
I appreciate that, Jeff.
I hope that's true.
I do have a worship guitar channel for the stuff that we do at church.
Yes.
Still leans toward the rock and blues kind of stuff, but in a little different techniques. So it's called the Worship Guitar Channel. Real easy to find if you just put that in. I appreciate that, Jeff.
Yeah, I've definitely been there.
I did get some haters on one video I did on that channel, and I think I told you about it, but I just said, something about the title was what's the difference between church players and rock players and church guitar players.
Okay.
And I just got a lot of people saying you shouldn't have to change the way you play if you're playing in church. And I guess I was more just saying I wouldn't lean to do a Eddie Van Halen solo in church. And, but so many people have said you should be able to play however you want. But I don't think those people go to church very often.
No. I have to tell you, I was a worship leader for a lot of years, and but I was also a guitar player, on the praise team for a lot of years. And there's a fine line in there, man. I mean, especially if you're a worship leader and you're part of the main staff or whatever, you got all that to deal with. But really, the bottom line is there's such a fine line, and it's all about, is it, whatever, is it praise and worship or is it performance, And you got some people out there, you do just this much of maybe a lead solo or some kind of something. He's trying to perform up there, man. That we can't do that. It's that, or it's such a fine line.
Yeah, that's how. I don't know. That is a fine line for sure. I think the Lord's put music in all of our hearts, and that's why we're all hanging out together right now, is because of music. And
absolutely,
there's an appropriate way to play a song in church or on stage at a club. There's things that you do that fit the song. And, you're going to use your instrument, your tone, the notes you play, you're going to do it in a way that kind of grabs the soul of the song,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I think really, for me personally, that really holds true more with singers, than it does, what I mean, than guitar players. I will say that, it's less about guitar and instruments. It's more about, the singing and that type of thing. But
right. I mean, you can't be digging on a guitar if the vocals are getting covered up. Obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Good stuff. So, what is your most prized, loved guitar? Mine is my 8-foot Strat named Betty.
Betty, all right, man.
I love it, Jeff. That's pretty good, man.
I don't know why I never named my guitars. Maybe I should.
That's good.
I'll tell you. Jeff has seen a few of mine, so I just really have a handful of guitars, really.
Yeah.
But I would love. I have a whole bucket list of ones I'd love to get. But I mean, between a Strat and a Les Paul, you're going to cover a lot of ground. So
yeah.
And I have a couple. I'm blessed with a couple nice guitars. But this stuff I have, it's taken me a lifetime to get. I'm not any type of wealthy person at all, so it's just
never was.
Right. Guitar players are always looking for the next best thing a lot of times, but
yeah.
But I'm the older I get, the more content I am with the great stuff I already have, and it's fun.
Well, my whole deal changed through the years. It's like for a lot of years in my playing, I could care less. I just play whatever, And then I think I had like one time I had a Kramer Beretta, and I was in the hole. Of course, I wasn't really, I loved Eddie Van Halen, but I wasn't trying to be Eddie Van Halen. I just loved the guitar. But Kramer Beretta, that was back when Eddie played a Kramer Beretta, But I had that guitar, and that was really awesome there for a while. Then I got rid of it, and I had a USA Strat. Well, before that, I take it back. One of the first guitars I ever had that was really worth something, really nice, was a gold top Les Paul. And I don't know why I ever got rid of that, but for whatever reason, my whole thing changed to where I was just into something else. I don't know why I got rid of that guitar. I couldn't tell you. It saved my life. It was an amazing guitar. I saved up for it and I bought it and stuff. It was really, for a long time. And for whatever reason, I got rid of it. It might have been to get the Kramer. I don't remember now. But eventually I did have a Strat. I only had one USA Strat. And I played that Strat, and I played in a club band and stuff. And we played, classic country and classic rock and stuff. And I played it for a pretty good while. But going back to my guitar guy that we was talking about earlier, I walked into his shop one time, and he had a green Telecaster body, just the body hanging up on the wall. And I said, man, I've never played a Telecaster, dude. You know, what are you going to do with that body right there? You going to like make a guitar out of it or something? And he said, yeah, you know, the guy wanted me to paint it, and I painted it up for him, and he never come back after it. So I'm going to do something with it. I said, well, I've got an old, and at that time I had an old Fender Squire, you know, and I said, well, I got an old guitar here. Maybe we just, the guitar I have, maybe we can throw the neck on it and just kind of make something out of it. Would that be possible? And anyway, long story short, he built that Telecaster for me, and I'd never played a Telecaster. Well, soon I got rid of that Strat, and I played that green Telecaster for a long time. And eventually I got an aftermarket neck on it and got better, you know, pickups. He rebuilt the whole guitar. It's awesome, and I still have it.
Nice.
You know, it's, and so to answer the question, without a doubt, that green Telecaster made me fall in love with Telecasters. And now I've had Les Pauls since then. This would be my favorite for sure, this one. But I've got another area Les Paul copy that's really cool, and I had it rebuilt recently. But to go back to the Telecaster story, I played that green one for a long time. Then I actually played that green Telecaster and sung a song as my wife walked down the aisle, you know, for our wedding. And you know, I was a worship leader back then, used that guitar a lot and stuff. Anyway, she kind of fell in love with that guitar, and so she told me I could never ever get rid of that guitar, ever. And so I, you know, loved it and had it ever since. But I bought another one that's like the cream color. I don't have it in here right now, or I'd show it to you, but I've done it on a ton of my videos, but it's basically the, what do you call it? The beige or the cream color, whatever you call that. And ever since then, long story short, I've had those two Strats. I'm sorry, those two Telecasters, and those are my favorite guitars without a question of a doubt, aside from, you know, this Les Paul. But they're identical. What's weird is I bought the second one. I bought it used, bought it online, and it actually had the same type of bridge. I had like a hot rod bridge pickup in the green one. And this one I bought, the cream color one, it had the same bridge pickup. You know, it's kind of, so they sound almost identical. I mean, it's just like both those guitars. I love those guitars.
Yeah, I need to get one. I actually have traded a couple that I had before, and you can say the same thing. You kick yourself like, why did I do that?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Crazy. It's good stuff. I think we got, coming down to the bottom of the list here. Let's see here. What about economy picking? I love that.
I'd love it too. I'm not good like Joe Bonamassa or Eric Johnson.
Right.
I do it all the time. I mean,
all the time. Yep.
I'm always on the upstroke. I'll hit two strings sometimes.
Yep.
Or just on the upstroke. And obviously with I even just subconsciously do it now. I don't really think about it.
Don't even think about it. Exactly.
So, you know, just playing down a simple box, and as you hit that last downstroke, continue it.
Yeah.
To the string right underneath it, basically. But when you do that with speed, I'm not doing too well right now.
No, you're doing great. I was fixing to take a stab at it, but I'm probably going to mess it up pretty bad.
But it's such a useful way to gain some speed with what you're doing. Also, I'm just not good at doing flurries with a bunch of notes, but it's a useful thing in blues and rock.
Yeah, that's what I was going to share would be, you know, if you've ever tried to do any kind of sweep picking, you know, any kind of sweep picking, it's like, you know, and I can do some short stuff, stuff like that. I can do, you know, just maybe some 2 and 3 string stuff, you know, just not too bad there. But one thing I did learn not too long ago, it's like I like to play a lot of these motif licks where you're something like that right there, where you can sweep pick that. I mean, it's not perfect, but you're basically sweep picking that right there. So that's one of the main ways I use economy picking. Kind of sloppy there, but
yeah.
So that's one of the ways I do it, and it's just kind of to me, it's really just it's the lowest form of sweep picking. It's kind of like you're just barely being a sweep picker, because I can't do 6 strings. I can't just go all over it, and I could do it, but it's not going to sound very good, But I can do those little 2-string, 3-string, sweeps a little better,
Yeah,
so.
just that little I call it a little half sweep if I'm just doing one little string like that, but it breaks up the pentatonic scale instead of.
Yeah.
And so it just breaks it up. It gives it a great sound. It helps you gain some speed.
It does.
Because I've never been a real good alternate picker with speed.
Right. Me neither. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Some good questions. Really
Yeah.
good stuff there. This is I think Jeff is saying he's fixing to.
Oh yeah.
Had a great time chatting with both of you. I got to sleep a couple hours and work. Hey man, I appreciate that. You're hanging out with us and you got to work in the morning. Man, that's awesome.
I appreciate it, Jeff. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, for hanging out, man. I really appreciate you, brother.
And Fred said Telly's his favorite on that next one.
Yeah. I fell in love with the Telly. I mean, I can't tell you that I wouldn't play a Strat again, but I haven't owned a Strat.
And we both got Les Pauls tonight.
Yeah, I haven't owned a Strat in a lot of years. I really haven't. So it's like, I actually did. There's a music store, and I know the guy that's basically over the production of the guitars and stuff. And if you go back and look at any of my videos, anytime you'll see some videos where I'm playing a red Strat, and that wasn't my guitar. That was one that they loaned me. He loaned me, said, hey, you can use this guitar, in some of your videos. And he didn't tell me I had to promote it or promote him or promote the company, or it wasn't a sponsor deal by no means, nothing like that. He just said, hey, if you want to use this guitar and, play it for some of your videos, that'd be cool. So I thought, well, I'll try that. And I did it for, several videos. Of course, I gave it back to him, but it was a neat little experience. But that was the first time I had played a Strat in forever. And they're a little bit of a different animal. I mean, once you've been playing a Telly for a long time, it's different playing a Strat.
And the controls for me is just a whole different thing. I like having the humbucker, the other Strat that I use all the time.
Yeah.
So it's so versatile that way.
Oh yeah, I love yours. Is that the only Strat you have? Just that one?
No, I have another one that's really clean sounding, just a regular Strat, wired Strat. Yeah.
Very cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's see what this one here is. What's a guitar you absolutely love, but ended up, oh man, that was the gold top Les Paul. I just read your first line there. I hadn't read the rest. Mine was a Fender Japan 62 issue. I really love that one. It even had some cigarette burns on it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my green Telecaster I was talking about, man, it's all beat up now, but I just love it because it's been played, man.
Yep.
And but that gold top Les Paul, I really had a really nice one. I mean, if I had it today, it'd be worth a whole ton of money. I can tell you, it was first class, and I was kind of silly and decided I wanted something different, and I sold it, and I don't know what I bought. I think I bought that Kramer Beretta. I think I don't remember what I bought, but I bought something in its place that I thought was cooler. I guess I don't know. Not very smart. But
I couldn't begin to tell you how many guitars I've let go that I just was dumb.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because I had Les Paul a '76 when I was a teenager that
Yeah.
looked just like this. I mean, literally, that's why I got this one. But I traded it for something that I thought I had to have. I think it was an SG, but and then I ended up getting rid of the SG, and
Yeah.
just it's just good to keep the stuff, even if you're not satisfied totally. Maybe just put it away for a couple
It's
days or a
like
couple weeks. Yeah,
it's like I know that now, but I didn't know it then, man. I wish I
yeah.
would have. Same thing with cars. I kind of have the
It's
same
yeah.
thing. I got a story about cars that's the same thing, man.
Yeah, I got rid of stuff that, yeah, if we had those cars that we had in
Oh
high
my God.
school.
Yeah, yeah. I had a '69 Z28 when I first started driving. I was all into Camaros, man, and I had like a old junky '69 Camaro for a while, and then eventually I had a '69 Z28. It was really cool. And man, I don't know why, but I ended up selling that thing and buying me like a '78 model Z28. And man, I think the guy I sold it to, I wanted to go back and buy it back from him, and he wrecked it and demolished the whole car. So I couldn't go back and get it or anything. But man, yeah, for sure. So we got here, Fred, you two are great together. I really like this live cast. Man, thank you so much, Fred. I appreciate that. I've been wanting to do this forever. And man, Rusty was so gracious just to take his time and us kind of work on this together. And man, here we are. I'm so excited and very, very thankful. Very, very, very thankful.
Yeah, it's always fun to hang out and talk about guitars and life, for sure.
Man, it is. It is. Strat is my second best and love them both. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that for sure. Both are killer guitars. I mean, I know I'd love a Strat too if I owned another one and really got into playing it more and stuff. The thing about Stevie Ray Vaughan is, I will say this, I played a ton of not a ton of Stevie Ray Vaughan songs, but Texas Flood is one of those ones I played forever. And so that's the kind of blues I like to play more than anything, is like Texas Flood and Red House and ones like that. But
Slow
Texas
blues,
Flood,
yeah.
to really do it justice, you need that Strat sound, and I never had that. I always was playing on a Les Paul or a Telly or something else. Never really had that true, Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of tone, you know what I mean? But you really need a Strat to get that, I believe.
Yeah, he played a few different Strats, but mainly his beat up one. But that was his sound. Yeah,
And I don't even really know which pickup.
He used the bridge pickup a
position that
lot.
he used.
He used the bridge pickup all the time.
Would that mean all the way
I
to
mean
the right?
the neck. I'm sorry.
The neck.
He did a lot. Yeah.
So that would be like going back toward the left, right?
Yeah, the upper pickup.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
did, but he used them all. He actually used them all. But he used the neck pickup a lot.
Yeah. He has some killer tone, man. Killer tone. Can't go wrong having a Telly and a Strat. Yep. 100% guarantee. No doubt about that. Yeah, really. I mean, somebody told me one time, you ought to do a video about what are the really most important guitars that any aspiring guitarist should own. And I didn't ever do that video, but without a question of a doubt, for me, there's really only three, I guess for me personally, and that would be a Strat, a Telly, and a Paul. I guess somebody else could throw in, Paul Reed Smith.
Definitely
or
PRS, yeah.
PRS or the, would you say, well, I got the SG, what Angus Young plays. And I think there's, what's the one Ted Nugent plays?
355, the hollow body 355.
Yeah, yeah.
Is really
That's like
sure.
Ted Nugent or Joe Bonamassa, somebody like that plays them.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
Eric Johnson plays one. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
For sure.
Got another question here. Yeah, Michael asks, what gauge strings do y'all prefer?
You start. Yeah, I use 10s on all my guitars.
You do, really?
D Adario 10s on all of them.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I actually had 11s on everything for years, many years, till just like 5 years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah, just I was starting to dig into the Stevie Ray Vaughan vibe, but he used thicker than that even. But I just having the thicker strings gives it a little different vibe.
Yeah.
But
So
I was getting it was getting hard to bend some of the stuff. So
have you always tuned 440 or did you spend a lot of
yeah,
time tuning half step down?
nope, almost always just standard.
So I had had one rock band where well, I've been in a few bands where we tuned half step down, but my last classic rock band I was talking about, eventually we tuned a full step down, and it wasn't because we were playing metal or anything. It's just because of my voice. I couldn't sing that high range, and it was really more based on it's easier to sing most of the songs. I can sing more songs in a night because of that extra step. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I always played tens up until probably about the last maybe 10 years or so. And I started playing nines, or at least, I think whenever I was tuning down half a step or a full step, I probably did do tens. But since I've been playing 440 tuning, for the most part, especially in church and stuff like that, I think mostly it's all nines now. So
Yeah.
I used to have a really huge problem of breaking strings all the time. And I always thought maybe that was attributed to, not having heavy enough strings, but that's not correct. I mean, I think you could break strings with 10s or 11s. It don't matter. It's all in the way you play. And
Yeah, a lot of it's imperfections in the bridge and stuff, and
it is.
And I haven't broke a string in years, luckily, but
Yeah.
and I'm pretty rough on them because I have stainless frets on a lot of these guitars, and it really chews your strings up. I didn't know that,
Oh, is that right?
but I have stainless frets on my three main guitars,
Okay.
and this one included. Just they're just smooth, and I probably won't have to replace them. But I didn't realize they're actually, when you have the strings on there for, I change them mine's pretty often, but there actually will be little wrinkles in the string from the frets. I'm totally serious.
Is that right?
Yeah, like right now, if I go like this, I can feel them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. And these strings are only a week old,
Okay.
but that still stays in tune and plays well. But
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember when I finally got out of the point of where I didn't break strings anymore. I think it had to do with the old bridge that I had at one point, and I don't remember what I did differently and stuff. But I used to really have that problem, and then eventually it just kind of went away. But changing to nines didn't matter. It definitely had. I broke them like crazy when I had tens.
yeah,
So yeah, it's crazy.
yeah.
Hey, I don't know how you doing on. We got a couple more questions, I think here, Rusty. You still doing okay on time, or?
Yeah.
Actually, we got one more that Michael's asking here, which is really good. This is definitely could be a little bit of a. We can definitely work on this
Always.
one.
Every time
we can camp out here for a while is what I'm trying to say.
Well, every time I pick up the guitar, I'm doing double stops.
Me too, man.
Yeah, I just, and usually the pentatonic double stops and also the major.
Yep.
Yeah, I love the two notes there from the major.
Right.
Or that little barring in the B and E strings.
Yep.
Just every time I pick up the guitar, I'm
Me too.
I have just little things that I do with the double stops.
Yeah, there's a big part of of me exploring this, you know, I mean, I've always kind of played some of the double stops, stuff like that. But when you start thinking about the caged chords, you can really start breaking stuff down. Like here's your G position, and within that you got you know, you can just do a lot of things within different positions.
Right there.
So here's your D position. Well, this isn't the exact D position. This is more of a G, but from this position right here, you got all this to work with. And that's part of learning the major scale. Like instead of just one note, you know, learning the major scale on one string. I mean,
right.
You can learn all the intervals on one string. So it's like. If I have to play it right, but anyway. So it would be, let's say this D right here. There's your 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to 1. You could do different places. I like to do 6th a lot, and 6th are D's, you know. And so I love to do this stuff right here. You know, the whole the end of is at the end of Can't You See? I can't remember where it starts. It's probably on this D, on this G right here, I think.
Oh, the very ending, yeah.
Let's see. Sorry. Anyway, it ends on the G somehow. But little stuff like that right there, I just love doing these types of licks. And I love playing a phrase like this. And landing on some kind of double stop like this. And then you can do this just about anywhere you're at on the guitar. If you start think about your caged, you can really start, you know, exploring it. Now, of course, there's the home base ones, you know. And that's where you can bring those in there. So one of the things I like to do is just start with a chord. And do stuff like that. Wherever I was at there. But the cool thing about double stops is that I didn't really know before. I didn't really know what a double stop was. That's the honest truth. I thought these right here were just like cool Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix licks. I didn't know there was a name for it. You know, I didn't really know what a double stop was. And that's the honest truth. And I only learned that probably in the last, you know, several years. But I always played it. You know, I just didn't really know what it was called. I just called, these are those Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of licks. So, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, we're getting, looks like we're down to the bottom of our questions. We've kept everybody pretty late, man. Nice. We had a lot of people hang out. I'm so thankful. And all of you that have watched and hung out with us, asked questions, comments, man, I can't thank you enough. That is really, really cool. I'll ask this, and you don't even have to have your guitar for this, Rusty, but you know, when it really comes down to it, what do you feel are the most important things a guitarist needs to try to master to be the best that they can be at lead guitar and improvising?
Visualization of the fretboard, like we talked about earlier a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, you need to, if you working on an A chord or a scale, you should be able to already have that visualized, the whole shape of it.
Right.
That is the biggest thing, and then the rhythmic part of rhythm and lead guitar, but just the movement.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm gonna have to get something in a second here.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a the rhythmic part of it is such a huge thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to go ahead and sign off.
Can you
You need
close
to go
my
ahead and
door?
call?
Yeah, my wife just no. I don't have to sign off, but I'm gonna shut this door.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Oh,
No,
she,
no, no
she just
problem.
got it. She just got it. But yeah,
Yeah, no
I
problem.
really think I think a lot of players miss the visualizing the fretboard, just knowing the notes like we talked about, and you know, using your ear, such, you know, and having some movement with those chords and scales. I mean,
Absolutely.
those three things for sure.
Absolutely. I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, I can answer that question. And for me personally, it's just a real quick thing that I did in my last video. And it really comes down to just for the answer for me is just building off that major scale, you know, taking your major scale, dissecting it, using it as a foundation, just like you were going to build a house. And that foundation is that major scale. And you work off that in terms of everything you do, chords, scales, pentatonics, you know, modes, whatever you want to do, arpeggios, you name it, that major scale is your foundation. So I think that's my answer as far as just kind of in a nutshell.
Right, yeah, because you visualize the fretboard that way, and other players might use the pentatonic or other chord
Absolutely.
shapes, and just every player is really different that way. But you have, there's got to be a way that you're confident, you know, looking down at that fretboard and knowing what it's going to sound like and what the shapes look like, the chord shapes, the scale shapes, the cage shapes, whatever that visualization is. That's
Absolutely.
something you have to evolve into for sure.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Well, this has been a blast. I'll tell you what. If anybody's still watching and you're watching live and you hadn't been to Rusty's channel, that is his channel right there. Check it out. Again, he's doing amazing. I mean, he's helped so many people, and you know, I love his channel. I love his teaching, and man, this is really special. This whole deal was really special. I have a free PDF download that if you'll in the comments simply put in 2 words, free PDF, I will send you a link where you can download this for free. And it's not just this, but it's also, you know, some introduction here. It's got everything from mode scales, pentatonic scales, minor and major. It's got the blues scales. It's got the cage positions. It's got all kinds of cool stuff wrapped up in a little bow that's basically just a PDF document. And it's something I love. I use a lot, and I'd love to get it out to as many guitar players as I could. And I think it's just a great tool. So I want to say that. And once again, just Rusty, I can't thank you enough, man. This has been completely awesome.
Oh yeah, I appreciate you asking me. Yeah,
really, really cool. And
if I get down to Texas, I'll have to look you up.
yeah, when I'm
That'd be fun.
When I'm in your neck of the woods, man, I'll definitely, we can do one live in the same room, and
that would be fun. Yeah,
with a couple of different cameras going, and yeah, that'd be awesome. So, yeah, man, I really appreciate you, and all of you watching. Thank you so much. Keep rocking, and we're gonna go ahead and sign off. And again, thanks so much. Thanks, Rusty. Take care, brother.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. I just we'll definitely schedule something else coming up next year, and we'll just hang out and just talk guitar, man. I love it.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I love it. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, Clay.
Talk to you soon.
Yep.
Absolutely.